Smith. You just can't start a show without Chad Smith. Sensational Sherry, nice to have you here. Gorgeous Princess Luna, Davy Jones Locker, Raven is Ryan, nice to have you all here. And there is the stunning and talented Kira, and she is our number one wrench. Don't tell FAP, though. All right, Ian Herndon, nice to have you here. Lovely Laura Elizabeth, good to see you. And we may run out of time here. Hold on. Phil Minervino, Mr. Lurks-A-Lot. How are you guys? Thanks for joining us. The gorgeous and stunning Kara McIver from Saskatchewan. She is in the flat earth population right there. All right, continuing on. Ozzy, oi oi to you. Boom to you, Bama. How are you? John Music, nice to see you. And let's see, who else do we have here? Lady Nopingham, welcome to SOR. Thank you for joining us. And Paranormal Mountain, thank you for joining us. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Jason Hotop, how are you, my friend? And Beelzebrad, nice to see you. We are definitely running out of time. Brian X, awesome Arlene, National Memorial, nice to see you guys. We got to stop right there because it's time for a show. You know what to do. Horns up. Let's rock with Bumblefoot. From the mountains of snowy central British Columbia to you listening around the world, this, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. We welcome you to tonight's show on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on TalkStream Live, Revolution Radio, and KPNL. All of our archives are free. Go to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. You can follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and now on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot, reading Shirky Poo's Newswire, and checking out our swag as well. Tonight's show is brought to you by Chive Charities. Help make the world 10% happier by visiting Chive Charities today. You can find them on our website. We got a power show for you tonight. We welcome back a good friend of this show, Rob Freeman. He was just 12 years old when he saw something very unexplainable from the roof of his parents' house with a self-made skywatching kit. 50-some years later, no, he doesn't even look that old. I look older than him. It pisses me off. Anyways, the good Torontonian has, besides he is a Leaf fan, so we should have really looked into this, whether or not bring these Toronto people on. But nonetheless, he is a quality researcher and ufologist, having traveled over 14 countries and 50 cities looking for UFOs. And joining us tonight is Rob's television partner, Mark McNabb. He has spent 30 years in television, has remained as strong in his belief to be creative and inspiring, and is blown away by the UFO hunt. The excitement is thriving with the producing of a new international factual documentary series, Making Contact, Be Inspired, and Rob Freeman, UFO World Explorer. Gentlemen, we are so proud to have both of you good Canadian kids on Spaced Out Radio tonight. It is an all-Canada show here, and you know what? I'm just going to pat myself on the back for this because, I know our American listeners are going to be like, really? Shut up with the Maple Leaf. But that's okay. Gentlemen, how are you?
Thanks for having us on there, Dave. Appreciate it.
We appreciate it, Dave. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. I'm very excited to have both of you guys on as well. You guys are the type of people who are still doing the yeoman's work of ufology. I consider both of you guys to be true ufologists. You're getting out in the field. You're getting the film. You're getting the know-how of what to look for and when in the sky. And, we're going to get heavy into that tonight. But, Rob, I want to start with you because I had the pleasure of meeting you a couple of years ago in Toronto at the Alien Cosmic Expo and was just so impressed with your candor and your demeanor and professionalism when it comes to this topic. And there isn't a lot of that in the field of ufology. How have you been able to separate your work from the entire field? Because you're a guy who just goes out there and gets the job done.
Well, Dave, really, there's just so much stuff on the internet and YouTube. It's like, how do you know what to believe? So the bottom line, Marcus and I are out there trying to make contact and actually having these experiences together. And that's the only thing we can really believe. There's just so many stories, so many dramas, Hollywood dramas. There's so much stuff. Everybody wants to be in the limelight. And we're not even trying to be in the limelight. We just want to get out there on expeditions, meet people who are experiencers, go out in the field with them. And you know what? More often than not, we have some pretty cool things happen out there.
For you, Rob, I mean, this has been a 55-plus year journey now. And, you're somebody who has really dedicated your life to the study of this subject. At what point in your life did you realize that you needed to do this? This was your calling.
Well, gosh, it was about 7 years ago. Mark and I were doing some movies, children's movies together. And, actually one of them was right here at my house. And during breaks between film shootings, people are standing around chit-chatting, and it came up about UFOs. And, everybody was sharing UFO stories, and I told mine from when I was a kid. Both experiences had happened like 2 weeks apart. And little beknownst to me, Mark was quite intrigued with the stories that I was talking about, including the second one where we were on the roof of the house, because my friend had said, how could we see UFOs? And this was after the first one was in the newspaper. Over 200 people had seen it, Sarnia, Ontario, Canada. And he says, how could we see them? And I said, well, let's go on the roof of the house and see. I just made that up. And sure enough, we did. And we saw hundreds of lights going from the north to the south, like in a second and a half. And 30 seconds later, hundreds going back again. Well, Mark heard this story, and he was intrigued by it. And he didn't say a word to me. He spent the next, I'm going to say 4 to 6 months researching. And then he came back to me, and he said, and we met for dinner, and he says, we're going to go around the world. And I said, what for? And he says, we're going to meet ETs. We're going to see craft. We're going to meet ETs, and you're going to call them in. And I thought he was crazy. And he said, believe it or not, when you guys, as young boys, went on the roof of the house to see, flying saucers, ETs, and you saw them, he says, you called them in. So he says, we're going to do the same thing. And gosh, we got on the road and went to Area 51. And, we've been to 14 countries since then. And the experiences that we've had, they still blow our mind every single time.
Now, Mark, let's introduce to you, because Rob has been on the show a couple times before, but you're brand new to us. Have you always had an affinity for UFOs?
Dave, it's been a really interesting journey for me because, I remember when I was 9 years old, watching Close Encounters of the Third Kind, 1977. So I think what probably resonated the most with me when Rob told me his story was, just that human connection, like that film had obviously a very strong human connection, different stories, different experiences from around the world seem to be the center point of that film. And of course it all kind of congregated to the moment where they make contact in that movie. And that really resonated with me, Had I thought about it, had I had an experience like Rob did at 12 or 13? No. But I felt that wasn't really my role. Over the last 7 years, I felt my role has been that of storyteller, telling the story, like Rob is one of my best friends. So to talk to him and to know him for the last, I guess it'd be 12 years, and to spend the last 7 years doing this, it's just become increasingly more important to tell the story. And of course, going back to the Spielberg film, I just got that image, of two boys on the rooftop of a house, shimmying up the TV antenna and being on the roof with their little makeshift sky watching kit, a walkie-talkie, compass, pad of paper. And that just hit me. I loved it. I just couldn't shake that image for 6 months. I did. I got very excited. And what I learned was that there were pockets of people all over the world that had experienced at this level, like Facebook, right? You're suddenly in these chat groups, Australia and Peru and throughout the US and throughout the European countries. And I'm getting these emails, I'm getting these messages from people saying, we're out on the beach doing this. We're here. We're in the jungles. We're on the beaches of Peru. Like, this is where we're doing it. And that's what really drew me. And it's what continues to draw me to what we're doing. The experiences are amazing. The travel is amazing. And there's just definitely a story to tell.
Why do either one of you believe in this subject? Now, Rob, I know you've had lifelong experiences, but there's still this idealism that we have to believe in this and believe what we're going. So, Rob, let's start with you. Why do you believe that they are here?
Yeah, I guess, Dave, it's more than belief. Belief is kind of like religion. You go out on faith. It's knowing. And that's a step beyond belief. Like when you've experienced the kind of things that ourselves and others have experienced, it takes you beyond belief and into knowing. And once you've had these experiences, and especially, we have them together. We don't like to go out on our own because, your mind can play tricks with you. If you go out on alone and you see things, it's like, did I really see that? We always go together and bring others with us because after the fact, you can talk about it. And it's like, did I really see that? Yes, you did. And so did I. You can discuss it. It makes it more real and solid. But it's knowing. You don't have to go out on faith and believe once you experience some of this stuff. It becomes knowing.
And I would even chime in with that, Dave, to say that, when you're in front of, different experiencers or different experts, I mean, Rob and I have spent, uncountable hours with different experts, scientists that are on tops of mountains and, that are doing all these tests and are using really advanced technologies and things. As you spend time with them, you detect an agenda. If you can detect that agenda right away. Sometimes you really do feel, oh yeah, they're making a living from this at one level. Maybe they're writing a book or producing a movie or doing something, so that's part of their lifestyle. But then you run into that person that's just out on a farm somewhere, or in, that's in a very remote location, like we were in Peru, and you run into that. That woman in her kitchen who's just talking, like she has no agenda. She's not selling anything. So, and, just to connect with what Rob said, it is not a belief. It's a knowing because she's looking into your eyes and she's telling you, and she's connecting to you, and she's connecting to you with, the profound experience that she's had. So it really does transcend just a belief.
You guys have traveled all over the world filming UFOs and all over North America and like you just mentioned, Peru and other places. I mean, this takes a lot of money, guys. How are you getting funded for all of this, or is this out of your own pockets?
It's really a personal passion project of the two of us. And, I did very well in business, and I guess the bottom line is I'm funding this myself.
Yeah, no kidding. I mean, you must have done very well because you were everywhere, man. You want to go someplace, boom, let's go. Oh, let's go over to Europe now. Let's go over to Peru. You want to come to British Columbia? Sure, why not? I mean, no.
Okay, and there's more to it than that, Dave, to be honest. Mark is excellent he's the guy behind the scenes putting the expedition together. And if a deal is to be had on an airline flight, on an Airbnb, everything, he's the guy. And literally, we're always getting this stuff for like half price. And Mark gets so excited about getting deals because it just means we can do more with less. And, with our savings, and that's another expedition we can go on. So I'm just so excited that I have a guy like Mark with me who's, very careful with money, and we can get these expeditions done very inexpensively.
And yet, some way, somehow, I'm sure he's listening, you guys allowed Dan Berg to tag along.
Dan is awesome.
How does this even happen?
We love Dan.
That Dan Berg can tag along. I don't know.
We met Dan in 2018. We were at Joshua Tree, and Dan was part of what we called the Woodstock of ufologists. You know, we had Paola Harris there. We had Dave Palachuk and Stu Bundy from MUFON Canada, and Dan became a part of that. And Dan's energy and dedication and enthusiasm to this field is unparalleled. I mean, and we've had Dan we can tell you stories, you know, we've had Dan on expeditions like to Atacama where he had a very profound experience himself. So his enthusiasm and commitment to the field is amazing.
I have to tell you guys my Dan Berg story, okay? Him and I, and I don't talk about my daytime job on here because I like to keep some things personal, but Dan and I are in the same business. And one day I had to call Dan's office to just get some paperwork and get some information. And he answers the phone and I'm talking to him. And like 2 minutes later, he's into UFOs. He has no idea, you know, all he knows is my name is Dave. And I'm like, hey man, have you ever heard, I said, I'm kind of into UFOs too, you know, have you ever heard of this Spaced Out Radio? And he's like, yeah, man, I've heard about that. That's a pretty big show. I said, yeah, that's my show. I said, I'm kind of into this too. And he's like, no way. And like, it was just instant love. You know what I'm saying? Instant love. So now we call each other up every now and again and we'll be like, hey, how's the aliens doing? Right? So it works for us. Love Dan Berg. And Dan, if you're listening, a big shout out to you and your awesomeness, my friend. Let's continue on here with the talk because we got about 7 minutes before we got to go to break at the bottom of the hour. Rob Freeman and Mark McNabb are our guests tonight on Spaced Out Radio. You know, you guys I would consider old school ufologists. You are taking your equipment, you're going all around the world to find these amazing hot spots where people are having such incredible encounters. You know, with that old school way of thinking and, you know, kind of feeding off of what is not happening in the UFO Twitter drama and the social media drama that goes on with everything. How have you guys, Mark, been able to stay focused on getting the job done, task at hand?
That's a great question, Dave. You know, I'll try to connect something that's kind of even happened over the last little while for us. Like we had the honor of meeting Jacques Vallée, you know, and of course to talk to Jacques Vallée is to talk about Dr. J. Allen Hynek. And so you talk about, I mean, Rob would concur. I mean, to me and to Rob, they're like the Mount Rushmore of ufology, you know, in the 60s and 70s, you know, researcher and scientist, you know, that came together, you know, because it's not just about all the, like Rob mentioned earlier, the hokey drama and the media exploitation, if you will. I use exploitation in a soft way, but, you know, that being the hype of it, you know, like there's, they came at it with that professionalism that we have a great respect for. You know, they wanted to get the information. They wanted to get the information to the public. They didn't want the politics. I mean, we know that there's a lot of politics in the ufology world. And Rob and I do that too. I mean, we've evolved. I mean, you experience some things. It's really hard to contain your enthusiasm. But you still stick to the facts. I mean, we've really had some experiences where we've gotten really super excited about them, and then we've completely debunked them. You know, we went, no, look, we took it apart. You know, Rob is amazing at that. That is his total, complete, amazing skill set is to take that all apart. And I don't think that happens as much in the ufology world. You know, you see a light or you see something appear in the sky, but when you spend, I don't know, what are we at, Rob? 3,000 to 5,000 hours of sky watching and being in the field and talking to people, you take apart your own stuff. And I think that, I don't know if this is completely answering your question, Dave, but I think that I think it's important. I know it's important. You know, you have to do that. You have to scrutinize your own work. You have to research. You have to apply the science. And of course you have an emotional investment, but you also understand you have a responsibility, and that responsibility means really bringing everybody the facts and bringing people the information.
Well, and can I jump in here, Dave?
Please.
Case in point, just 2 or 3 days ago on one of the Facebook feeds, there was a photo. It was taken above McDonald's, and there's a bright street light, and then up in the sky is this blue something. Well, everybody was getting all worked up about it, and I thought, I don't normally jump in too much, but I got to say something here. And, from an optics point of view and a scientific point of view, typically with these camera phones, these phone cameras that we have, the lenses are not great. And you get these lens flares. And there's a very simple way to tell if what you're getting in the sky is a lens flare. I mean, first of all, you look for the bright light source. You draw a line straight through the middle of the frame. And if you see a flare or you see an object on the other side of the middle, the exact same distance, it's a lens flare. And it happens every time. And I actually did a video. I went to a bright light in my ceiling and I actually made a UFO. Now, what people will do is they'll do a video where they actually have a bright light and they move it around and get this blue thing to move in the sky, but then they will cut out the bright light source. And it just drives everybody wild. There's this authentic UFO. Well, do we want to get to the truth or not? Like, do people, why are they posting this stuff? Is it just to get attention? Like, we don't want the attention. We want to get to the truth. So, and the truth is, 95% plus or minus of everything that's posted is explainable. We're not interested in that. We're interested in that, the cream of the crop, that 5%. Now, as Mark said, we've spent thousands of hours in the field, and it is more rare to get really legitimate stuff. But when you look at YouTube, you'd think that people are seeing UFOs by the minute out there. The truth is most of it's, it's optics in the camera or it's something explainable. And, people take big offense that they think that I don't believe. Well, of course I believe, but I want to get to the truth. And it gets under my skin when I see people pushing off stuff that I know with their thousands of hours out in the field, I know is a camera aberration or it's an effect of the camera. I mean, we could do a whole show on this, but I've gotten kind of carried away now. I lost the original point.
That's okay, and that's very fair. But I think your words actually ring true on everything. Is a lot of people don't know what a UFO is. Is it
Correct.
An unidentified flying object? I mean, to some people out there, they've never seen the space station before. They've never seen Venus. I mean, like tonight, if anybody took the chance to actually go out earlier this evening to look at the thumbnail of the moon with Venus bright as ever right above it, and then draw a diagonal line to Saturn and then up to Jupiter, most people couldn't even tell you that those are planets. They'll say, well, they look like they're moving, they're shimmering, and we may have something. Most people have never seen the International Space Station, or now with Starlink out there. I mean, I don't know how many reports I've seen even locally come in here about I saw a group of satellites, and you hate to break people's hearts by saying, look, that's Elon Musk technology. That's not alien. But people, they want to believe, Rob. We got about 30 seconds.
They do. Sure. And I was going to say, right at the beginning, we were the same way. Everything we saw was a UFO. But, we did get egg on our face. The more advanced people shut us down. So we vowed that, hey, we're going to kill our own babies. Anything that's not legitimate, we're not going to promote it. And we're not afraid to do that. We used to be emotionally involved with this, but not anymore. If it's not real, we don't want it posted.
Well, I mean, that is the big thing, though. And the problem that you guys have being realists in this field is clickbait means everything these days. Clickbait and video count. That's where the money is. And it's unfortunate that ufology has gone that way, but here we are. Rob Freeman and Mark McNabb on Spaced Out Radio, World UFOs. Where's the hot spots? Where are they going with all this? We'll find out when we come back on the mighty SOR with Rob Freeman and Mark McNabb. Stick around. Spaced Out Radio continues right after this. All right, we're clear.
Hello,
boys.
this is your guitar man, Ron Bumblefoot Thorne.
We're clear. That's good stuff. Very good stuff. And hello to my...
Well, you know, once you get it started, there's no stopping.
Just go, man. Just go. Hey, everybody in the chat room, Merle it up, because our man Merle is here. There he is. Merle. Now, Merle's kind of funny. He's probably, in my opinion, one of the top 2 or 3 paranormal investigators in Canada. And we do a monthly show called Ghosts of the Great White North. And he's afraid to believe in UFOs. Afraid to believe it. But him and his girlfriend were down in Oregon about to do a ghost hunt a couple of years ago. And they look up and there's a black triangle right above them. Yeah. He doesn't like it. He doesn't like admitting that one, but he's starting to warm up to the cause.
You know, it's pretty hard. Once you see something that's not explainable, Dave, you're bitten by the bug.
Oh yeah,
absolutely.
You really are.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I haven't had any good experiences for a while. It's been a while, and I just don't know why I'm dry now. It's like they're done with me for a little bit here. They're giving me a break.
Well, you got to get out there in the field with another experiencer. Get the energy going.
Oh,
you know, draw them in. Do it.
Yeah. Well, the problem is now we're all huddling in for winter up here. You know, we got the igloos all set up. You know, the dog team ready to take us to town in case we need some supplies. You know how it is. Oh yeah, you're in the city there. So
well, and I've got a story to tell. My brother's girlfriend, when we lived in Sarnia, Ontario, that's border town right across from Port Huron, Michigan.
Yeah.
And in the dead of summer, end of July, she worked as her summer job as customs agent there on the booth. And she says, Rob, I can't tell you how many times people from the U.S. coming across the border into Canada, fully dressed with ski clothes on, skis on top of the car, asking where they can find a ski resort within a day's drive. It's like, man, that time of the year you'd have to go all the way to the North Pole. That's more than a day's drive. And the only sledding that goes on up there is with Santa Claus.
Yeah, our snow, there's only a couple of mountains that are around here that you could go 24/7. Now, if you head, towards Whistler, they got the glaciers all up there. But like my area, you got to go a couple hours drive. And then hopefully there's no forest fires in between to kind of block you.
Do you have anything that's open all year round?
Snow-wise, no. Not in my area. No. North we do, and east we do, as you head more towards the Rockies. Mm-hmm. So, I live just at the top of. I'm in 100 Mile House, so in between Kamloops and Williams Lake.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I am. Yeah, like where all the forest fires were last year. Then, yeah, we didn't burn. Knock on wood. That's okay. We got about a minute and a half here. Yeah, but I have someone that you guys need to film next time you're in BC. We'll talk about.
Sounds good.
Yeah,
that would be great. We
love
BC. We've had some great experiences there. I'll tell you.
Well, look at that, Grant Roger from Quesnel. Look at that. That's just north of me, 2 hours. How are you, Grant? Good to have you here, man. I have a young lady here who, her name is Samantha Mowat. She lives in Prince George. And I met her when I lived in Mission, British Columbia in 2014. And 25 minutes after meeting her, she walked me into a forest to view extraterrestrials.
Oh, my goodness.
Real deal, man. Real friggin' deal. That is, as I like to call her, I call her the best kept secret in ufology. So.
Well, you got to go out in the field with her again there, Dave.
Oh, God, I've spent a lot of time with her looking. We haven't, she moved north and then I moved north, and we haven't been able to get together. But hold on, gents. Thank you, Ghost Dragon and Tim, for the amazing super chats. We're going to kick off the second half hour right now, everyone. Second half hour of Spaced Out Radio is now underway. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. I want to remind you that if you missed portions of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor. Hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read Shirky Poo's Newswire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and now on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. Ufology 101, pretty much what it is. We're getting schooled tonight in a good way. Mark McNabb and Rob Freeman are here, UFO world explorers they are. If there's a hot spot around the world, they're going to go try and find it. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us.
Great to be here, Dave.
Once again, thanks for having us on, Dave.
All right, gentlemen, what makes a UFO hotspot? Rob, let's start with you.
Well, we have found it's two things. There's the actual geography, and there's the person. And, in terms of where we're going to go, we kind of look at the product or the sum of the two. And if you can go to a spot that's had known sightings, plus you go with somebody who is seeing things, and there's a good chance you're going to have an experience. It seems to be a product or a sum of the two things together. It's not just one, it's not just the other. It seems to be both combined. That's what we found.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I would add into that too, just to add to what Rob said. It's like some hotspots have like a history of it, and again, like with the traits of geography and people, we've been to some parts of the world, like Peru, where it's like, literally dating to the start of civilization. So you're going to very remote areas, and very off grid, very off road, which seems to be conducive as well. We just came back from Death Valley, and we had some interesting experiences in both. Actually, we were in Munns Park, Arizona, and then we crossed over to Death Valley, and again, we like to not only is it a hotspot area and that there have been a lot of different experiences and sightings, but it's very secluded, like very removed from the populace and things like that. So if you take all those factors, yeah, you're ratcheting up your chances.
Okay, so for instance, my area where I live in the Cariboo of British Columbia is said to be a UFO hotspot. People around here from Kamloops straight up to Quesnel and Prince George really see a lot of UFOs. I was just talking to a gentleman today who was telling me stories of when he was working on the fire lines in 2017 by what we call Green Lake, that on the one side, on the south, you had all the fires raging north. And when they looked northeast on the mountains, they saw a bunch of different lights floating around each and every night. I mean, there are hotspots like this all over the world, gents. And Rob, I'm curious for you, as you decide which location that you're going to go to, how do you figure out the time of year, when to go, what's the atmosphere like, what's the altitude like, what's the flight lines like? Because I know you're that dedicated to trying to figure every little anomaly out.
Yeah, I guess the very first thing is the weather. With all this equipment, we don't We've done it in the past where we've had snow landing on the equipment. We want to be with warm nights, dry nights where there's clear skies. So we try to pick these hot spots that exist in those places. If you set up an expedition for a week, but it's in maybe Ontario, Canada, where we live, and it's in the fall, there's a good chance you're going to get rained out. For example, just this past fall, Mark, I think we rebooked Eastern Lake, Ontario. There's a hot spot, and the lady of the Airbnb was very gracious, and she extended us for a different time, but I think we extended it twice, and then each time there was rain coming in. So, will you see something? You might, but we're not going to be able to take the equipment out. I mean, they do come below the clouds from time to time, but we try to optimize it. So we try to go to places in the world where it's very dry. That way, when the dew point, you come down to the dew point or near the dew point at night, you don't have condensation landing on your cameras as well. I mean, I've got all the lens heaters to dry all that up, but it's a lot of paraphernalia, and you don't have to spend time with all that stuff. So we try to set it up in a warm location, a dry location, a location where we'll check the weather. Mark and I will go through the archives of the weather and see, okay, what are the chances of there being rain? Is it like, okay, one night in 30 days? And we start there. And then, Mark is super on Facebook. He makes contact with people all over the world. So we listen to their stories. We've gotten burned in the past where people are seeing things and it turns out it's just an airplane path right over their house, and they weren't familiar with what airplanes look like, But we'll screen through this stuff, and we'll make contact with these people. We'll talk with them. We'll see if they're authentic. We can kind of feel it. We've got a real sixth sense for that these days. And then we'll set up an expedition. So it's a whole lot of things brought together. Is that a guarantee you're going to have experiences? No. But we generally have never been skunked. We have something happen. And while it's lights in the sky that attracted us into this in the first place, a lot of the experiences happen right around you. Like Mark, just mentioned about Munns Park in Arizona, and we were there just a couple weeks ago as part of a 2-week trip. And we were up in the mountains, about half an hour from Munns Lake, looking down to Sedona off in the distance. And that night, we decided we were not taking the equipment. And this is a thing that we've learned. We take the equipment about half of the time. The other half of the time, I disconnect. I'm not attached to all my equipment. I disconnect and literally try to connect with the ETs. But that night was one of the nights that we left all the equipment at home. We did a meditation. And, I've got my handy-dandy laser, and I practice proper laser etiquette. I don't point the laser at lights. I do the circle around them. But we did the meditation. Right after the meditation, and this was in a very remote area, we're half an hour off the grid up the mountain on a road where just nobody is. Right after the meditation, I saw a light moving across. Now, 9 times out of 10, it's a satellite. So you watch it. I actually pointed it out to, everybody that's with us at our group there. And I was circling it, and I was just expecting it to just go right across the sky. Now, I also have an iPhone on my arm, and I've got it set to record all night. So no matter what, we get audio of what's happening. But I watched this light go across, and as I'm pointing it out, to Mark and Elena, all of a sudden it stopped. No kidding. And I'm like, I almost can't believe it. Because, we see so much mundane stuff. You're kind of expecting it to just go straight across. It stopped. And I told them, I said, look, it stopped. And I'm circling it. I had been sending texts. We had taken some beautiful pictures up there when it was sunny with the sun setting and the clouds and so on. And I was sending pictures to my partner. Well, there was full network up there. There was AT&T and T-Mobile, 2 and 3 bars and more. So the pictures were going through no problem. The second this, whatever it was in the sky, stopped, okay, and I watched it, and I continued to try to send pictures home. Nothing would go through. I look at my phone, no service. I tried T-Mobile, like, by default, my phone goes to AT&T Mobile in the States.
Mine too.
And if AT&T T-Mobile isn't there, it goes to T-Mobile. Both of them network down, out of service. And it's like, what the heck? And so what I'm getting at is it's not just in the sky. You'll get things happening around you. And we thought, what's with this? The whole service has gone down in the area on both networks. Through the entire evening, the network was down. Late when we decided to go home, as we went down the mountain and we got closer to the interstate, all of a sudden, bing, 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 I'm getting text messages galore from all the ones that were saved up for the last 3 or 4 hours. And then the next day we thought, okay, well, we go up there in the afternoon and just check out and see what the cell service is doing. We thought, no, we're going to go back there that night. So we had cell service all the way from the interstate, all the way back up to our spot. And it stayed up the entire night. So at no point did we lose cell service. And we're sending pictures, video, doing FaceTime, everything back home. So why is it that the second I saw that light stop, both cellular networks went down in that entire area?
Weird.
So what
Very
is that?
weird.
Is that a coincidence? Well, maybe one network, but both? Like, we did some research and, both networks have their own antennas in that area. So, now if there was a power outage, like cellular towers have backup generators, they have backup batteries. They use cellular networks in emergencies. When all the lights go out in your town, you should be able to still make your cellular phone call, right? So we don't understand. And, without getting into a whole long story, like, we've had so many of these anomalies happen just associated with something happening in the sky right at that exact time. So, don't just look at the light in the sky. Pay attention to the things around you also, because we call it the big wink. Like, it's a little bit of a confirmation of what's happening.
You just sparked a memory for me, Rob, with that. We went out with Samantha Mowat, going out, this is 2014. And we went up into this mountainside, and Samantha starts picking up, she's very intuitive, she starts picking up this black triangle. We cannot see it. Cannot see it whatsoever. Phones are dead, everything. My friend, as we're coming out of the mountains, this is in British Columbia, we're in the mountains behind Mission, and then come out of the mountains, you kind of get to the Hatzic Lake area, which is by the Fraser River. And coming out of the mountains, the minute I got cell phone service, my friend who lives in Hatzic Lake has 10 text messages to me. Where are you? There's a black triangle hovering over the mountains. And so we're way out in the mountains. This black triangle is in between us and my friend who is now trying to text me where this black triangle is. And we were like, you got to be kidding me. Like, we're going through this right now. And her neighbors were watching this black triangle at the time. So it wasn't just her going out and seeing it. So thank you for triggering that memory for me. I appreciate that. Gentlemen, you guys use some of the latest and greatest technology when it comes to finding and filming UFOs. I don't usually talk a lot of technology on this show because I'm not a techie guy. I'm more of a feeling and sensing kind of guy. But for you, Rob, if you guys can just go over your gear and explain how your equipment is much different than what us laymen are using.
Okay, so to start with, if I move my head out of the way, that one everything's backwards here. That one right there, that's a thermal camera, and that's military-grade thermal. That camera alone is $50,000, and with a quartz lens, and it's zoom camera, and it picks up using heat. So we have picked up a craft that we can't see with our visible cameras, but that camera has picked it up. Like over the Irish Sea, we picked up one, for example. So that's thermal. I've got the standard infrared, both wide angle and zoom. It's the green style night vision infrared. Okay, a thermal would be considered far infrared. It's into the heat spectrum. So it's just picking up heat. Whereas, near infrared is light, but just into the infrared band. And then I've got full spectrum, both wide angle for spotting and, zoom video, full spectrum. And then there's regular visible video, both, zoom and wide angle. And then I'll do time lapse with infrared and visible. And I just recently picked up a circular polarizing filter for some of the cameras. I heard from Ron Ulch. He's just finished building me a system. We did a video on him as well. And Mark, what's the name of his?
UDAP.
Yeah. And he's built us a full system for triangulating. So there's like 200 or 300 feet of cable between two sets of cameras. And these are different cameras from what I already have. And so it's kind of like your eyes, stereo. You can, perceive distance, at least up close, because your eyes are a little bit apart. And so to perceive where a craft is in the sky, how close it is, if you take cameras and move them far apart, then you can triangulate where it is. And so that equipment also scans all the frequencies so many times a second. And it scans them on both, both setups. There's full tripod assemblies with cameras and radio equipment. I've already started receiving some of it. It's the rest of it's on its way, and we hope to use that on expeditions. And I'll actually set that up right at my place here where I live out in the country. But it can tell the difference between, birds and planes and helicopters. And Ron is an engineer who's put a lot of time and effort, and this is his passion, to write all the software that can determine this. So, despite the fact that I've got all this technology, what I've found, Dave, is you can get so wrapped up in it that maybe the ETs are saying, this guy's too busy with his technology, we'll go somewhere else. We have found that when I put it all away, that's when the stuff starts happening. That was really hard to take for me at the beginning. Pardon me. It's like, I've got this passion with all this technology, and I've got the latest and greatest. I've even got digital radar. We've taken that on expeditions in Australia and different places, like full color digital radar. But the truth is I've had to learn and get used to the idea that it's kind of like, you get pulled over by the cops and the officer is like, step away from the vehicle, sir. I've had to learn to sort of step away from my equipment and drop that connection. And I can do it in a heartbeat now. I couldn't used to do that. Didn't used to do that in the past, and Mark can attest to that. But these days, we will spend half our time with the full complement of equipment. Then the other half of the time, leave everything at home, literally go there with your hearts and try to connect with these beings. And, that we did in Australia, for example.
Ufology over the last 4 years has become a very political game, and we'll continue that conversation a little bit later in the show. But how it affects you guys is, you guys, like I said earlier, are you old school ufologists doing the down and dirty work to try and get those credible videos of these incredible craft in the sky wherever they are coming from. Okay, but I'm curious for you guys, is there still a place for what you guys are doing, considering that all of the attention has really been turned to what the government, especially the United States, knows about UFOs and trying to get them to open up about what they know of the phenomena? Is there room for old school ufology still?
Absolutely. Absolutely. In fact, we ourselves have interviewed, especially with the pandemic and not being able to get out there as much. So we actually started interviewing various different people ourselves, including Grant Cameron and Richard Dolan and so on. And we kind of asked the same question to them. And their response was, we love the fact that you guys are out there in the field. Because a lot of people that do interviews, they spend all their time, behind a desk in front of a camera. They don't get out there. So they really want us to get out there, mix with the people, get the current stories, get the current happenings that are happening right now. There's so much history, and that's great. Everybody can talk about that. But it's kind of like, what is happening right now, guys? And yes, there's the stuff that's been released, but a lot of that's old. We're trying our best to capture things that are happening right now, Dave. So it is meaningful. It is useful. I wouldn't have it any other way. I want to get out there and try to capture what's happening right now, to be relevant. There's lots of information about the past, but, people really have an appetite for knowing what is happening right now out there.
It's an interesting paradigm too, Dave, because, we kind of got dropped into this like in the last 7 years, so the people that we've spoken to and been educated through, like, like Paola Harris, Erling Strand, like Grant Cameron, Richard Dolan, like there's a big list, Ricardo Gonzalez, Sixto
Rich Hoffman.
Rich Hoffman, Rich is incredible. 55 plus years of, his mind and his intelligence when it comes to this field, he goes all the way back to Project Blue Book. So we get this whole dynamic, and it's interesting. It's a really interesting dynamic because, ufology has been considered like fringe science, pseudoscience, really. And then you have this major disclosure happen, like a level of disclosure. I mean, disclosure is a funny word, right? Because of the way people take that word. But then you have these people who have been kind of not laughed at, but not taken seriously. They're doing their thing, and they're kind of maybe just doing the best they can. And some at the underground level, and some above the level. But suddenly they're put out front, and so it's interesting for us because we're trying to get the data. Like Rob said, we're trying to get present day data and apply it, but yet you've got this divisiveness, you've got these two different camps, you've got the governments of the world, saying, do we put money into, this program and that program, is it for defense measures? Like you had mentioned at one point, Dave, about, Lou Elizondo, we've spoken with Lou Elizondo. We had a lunch with Lou Elizondo 3 or 4 years ago. And, you get these perceptions of what it all means and the direction it's all going. So it's a pretty fascinating time right now. That's for sure.
Well, and that's the big thing about it, guys, is the relevancy of everything, because, it's easy to sit outside and look for things in the skies. But the one thing I like about what you guys are doing is you're releasing it. You're not holding on to it. You're not hoarding that information, which we see a lot of, especially in the paranormal encrypted world, or you're not making CGI videos on popular YouTube channels or anything like that. I'm thinking one in particular where the guy comes and goes. But I mean, you keep it going, you keep it moving, and you've got the technology to back you behind it. I mean, as we got about 45 seconds here, Rob, how important is it to keep that momentum going? Because if you're summoning in these craft, there's a lot more going on than just filming UFOs.
Well, yeah, and we learned very early in the game, whatever you get out there. Don't hold on to it, because there's a possibility if you keep it secret, you're going to get a visit from somebody who's going to ask you to keep it secret and not release it when you want to release it. We've got personal conversations with people that have had visits who've been told they're not allowed to release stuff. So immediately when we have something, we release it.
Well, that is awesome. And gentlemen, when we come back from the break, I know there's a bunch of audience questions already in our chat rooms ready for you guys tonight. And also, I want to get into the UFO summoning kind of things, because there's a lot of people, Rob and Mark, in ufology who say this summoning is a bunch of crap, it's a load of hogwash, but yet you're getting proof, real hardcore proof, that summoning works. Summoning UFOs, Rob Freeman, Mark McNabb, they're both out of the beautiful province of Ontario. UFOs around the world. We're talking about where they're investigating, how they're investigating, why, and later on in the show, we'll get into why these Canadians think the Canadian government needs to speak up as well. Hour 2 of Spaced Out Radio next.
Hi, this is Amber Beckrud, and I want to invite you to subscribe to our...
Excuse me. All right, we're clear. That was a great segment, guys. Great segment.
Thank you,
Like
Dave.
I say, you get us going and we'll never stop, Dave.
Oh, man.
This is too fun for us.
I'm having a blast tonight, gentlemen. Having a blast tonight. And this is good. Good fun. Hi, Steve Franchise and Kevin. How you guys doing? Thanks for joining us. We're at 161 live on YouTube right now. It's kind of cool.
Excellent. And, we just talked about it while we were in Death Valley and Sedona and stuff. We're going to write a book.
You need to.
Because, we put everything out on YouTube, but recently I've had people ask me, well, do you publish? Do you have all your experiences and everything that's happened like in one place? And that's good. For that reason, it's time to write a book. So
we have hundreds and hundreds, thousands of pictures from all over the world, and what are we up to? 40 stories. Like, we have 40 things that we can back up with pictures and video and all kinds of things. For a book, it'll be amazing.
How have you guys not been picked up by Canadian television?
We've been asked. We're on Tubi. We should say that, Dave, right away.
I don't care about the Tubi or anything like that. I'm saying, there's a lot of bullshit on Canadian channels that we don't need to see. You guys are doing proper work here across the country. I'm surprised you guys haven't been picked up, to be blunt.
I guess we almost were, but the channel, the series that wanted us to work with them, wanted us to move it into the drama category and the fear factor, and we actually walked away from that deal, Dave.
I don't blame you for that.
Because we're not experiencing that. We're not experiencing.
We're not going to sell out.
No.
We didn't want to sell out our.
My buddy Jonathan Davies from the UK. He's a big fan of yours. I think you know him, Rob. Mm-hmm. He wants to get in touch with you guys about going on his show as well.
Sure, absolutely, happy to.
Yeah, and John, if you need, I'll get my team to pass on their emails for you. Yeah, John's a good friend of this show. Now that dude is weird. I love him, and I'm saying that. I say that in the most complimentary way, man.
I was gonna say that's a good introduction.
Dude is weird in a very good way. He's like you, Rob.
We just want to get to the bottom of this ourselves. Yeah. In a way, it's a little bit selfish. We truly want to experience this way ourselves, and we're happy to and will share everything we experience with everybody.
Yeah,
100%.
Yeah, Jonathan was actually just on this show a couple of times last week, so I really respect his opinion. You'll have a very intellectual conversation with him, that's for sure.
We look forward to it.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you, Dave.
No problem. I freaked all my listeners out tonight because I I butchered my mustache tonight. Okay,
I'm reading the comments. It's amazing.
Yeah,
I've never seen so much activity.
Oh. Yeah, you butcher your mustache, and all of a sudden, all hell breaks loose in the chat room.
Yeah, everyone's like, the beard, the beard, the beard.
I know, it hurts. Right there, it hurts. But
the good thing with it can grow back, just like hair.
I know.
Right?
Yep, that's right. That's right.
But it's the first time I've seen my chin in probably 3 years. Terrible, ugly as sin. So I have a face for radio, guys.
So you're gonna grow it back or what, Dave?
Oh yeah.
What are you gonna do?
I don't know yet. We'll figure something out. Look at this. Michelle in Australia. I'm feeling very maternal towards you, Dave. I'm feeling the overwhelming need to squeeze those cheeks. God damn it.
That's a great comment.
Come on.
That could be taken a number of ways, though, Dave.
Yeah, you got to be careful.
I hear you. Idaho, how are you? Our favorite potato right there. All right. Let's try and right this ship here, people. Let's right this ship here. Big thank you so far to TMI, Amy, Todd, Ghost Dragon, and Double Tim for the amazing super chats. The super chat is a wonderful way to support what we do on this show on a nightly basis. So thank you very much, and very much appreciate the love and support that you guys give us nightly. And wow, just phenomenal people. And yeah, you guys need to hook up with Samantha Mowat. You need to.
Kind of write that down right now.
I did as well.
Mowat, SamanthaMowat.ca is her website.
Perfect.
Yeah, you let her know that you guys are good friends of mine, and yeah, it's she's a real deal, man, real deal, and she's scary good.
Looking forward to that.
Yeah.
Well, and Dave, the invite still extends for you to come out with us sometime.
Mm-hmm.
I think, last time we talked, we extended that invitation, and we'd love to go out in the field with you.
Oh,
yeah.
Definitely.
Come out, man.
When you guys are in BC next, let me know. I will be
Guaranteed.
there. Hold on, gentlemen. We're going to kick off the second hour here in about 4 seconds. So let's do this thing.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott. Follow Dave on Twitter @Spaced Out Radio and on Facebook, Spaced Out Radio Show.
Hour number 2 of Spaced Out Radio is now underway. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. We really do appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on TalkStream Live, Revolution Radio, and KPNL. All of our archives are free. Go to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Vehiculation. Vehiculation is your password. Use it wisely, space travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read Shirky Poo's Newswire. Check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter @SpacedOutRadio, Instagram @SpacedOutRadioShow, and now on TikTok @SpacedOutRadio. We continue on tonight with UFO talk from around the world. A couple of good Canadian kids who are chasing down UFOs. Mark McNabb, Rob Freeman. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us. And I know we're going to have a bunch of audience questions coming up here momentarily. But Rob, you are someone who is very much into something that is very controversial in the UFO world. There are not a lot of people outside of maybe some very dignified scientists who believe that people have the ability to summon UFOs. Yet you seem to be able to get these feelings that all of a sudden they're going to show up. You put your cameras up, you get ready, next thing you know, you're getting action left, right, and center. How does this work for you?
Well, I'll go to our Squamish Orb, for example. We were in BC with Charles Lamoureux. He invited us out, and he's a great guy. We spent time, and we were set up in Vancouver and so on. And the very last night, it was going to be raining, and, we don't want to kind of do nothing. So we asked him where we could go, and he says, well, maybe if you go up to the Squamish area, Britannia Beach or whatever, north of Vancouver. And we invited him to come along, and he thought, well, maybe he'll just chill out at home because it was raining in the Vancouver area. We went up to Britannia Beach, and we checked in with some people there. There was a gift shop. We actually asked the ladies, do you see anything? We didn't get a great feeling about Britannia Beach. It just didn't grab us. And she says, go a few more miles north to Squamish. BC. And in Squamish, BC, there's this big monolith type rock, and I don't know if it's granite or quartz, but it's very ancient rock. It's really kind of with the indigenous people, it's kind of a special rock. They call it the Chief. And when we pulled into the Squamish area, we all four of us, there was Mark, Liz, what was the other lady that was with us? Breslin, and myself. We all had this feeling that we were going to experience something or see something. So it's like, where do we set up? We kind of went through town. We were looking for spots, all in view of this big monolith rock. Just wasn't happening. So we kind of went away from the town into some lumbering roads and lumber roads. We came across this one opening that had a beautiful view of the Squamish Chief. And we said, this is it, right here. We're going to see something right here. We could all feel it. Breslin went and did a meditation. Marcus and Liz were set up in the back of the vehicle with the door open. I had my equipment set up. And I believe it was 10:59. And I didn't have all my cameras running. They were on, but they weren't running. They weren't recording. And all of a sudden, Breslin said, I see a light. And I turned. I'd been talking to Mark, so I turned to my cameras. It's like, which one do I hit? Which one do I put on record? Because I could see this light. It was a big yellowy light moving. And I thought, gosh, I got to hit something because it's going to go into the woods in a few seconds. So I just reached for my green night vision zoom camera, and I managed to train the camera on the orb, and I got about 8 or 10 seconds of it before it went into the woods. But the interesting part about it was it lit up the woods behind it, and it lit up the woods in front of it. And it's like, man, that's not an airplane. There was no sound at all. There were no helicopter blade sounds. We knew that the ISS had gone through earlier, but we couldn't see it because the level of the mountain, it would have been behind the mountain. It wasn't a satellite. It wasn't the ISS. It wasn't anything. And we got on the phone to Charles and we said, you're not going to believe this, but we just captured something. And, he could have had the opportunity to be with us, so he was kind of a little bit down on that one. But he helped us. He worked with us to debunk the fact that it wasn't the ISS. He, went on all the known, like all the planes that were in the sky. He went on different websites and checked all that out. And he says, I think this might be legitimate. So, we were quite excited about that. And we got in touch with Dave Palachuk from MUFON, and he ran with it. We actually called the local paper, let them know what we'd seen. They did a great article on it. And Dave came back and he said, it's an orb. It's unknown. It's not any of the known things. And then we actually went back ourselves 2 or 3 months later, Mark.
Yeah, it would have been.
And because we didn't really even want to believe that it was legitimate. We went back, thinking maybe it was the ISS, and so we went back to the exact spot. We did video on exactly where the ISS would have been that night, and it was behind the mountain, and it was like 15 minutes earlier, something like that. We did a whole nother expedition just to try to debunk the Squamish orb, and it wasn't debunkable. But the bottom line is we felt it in our gut that we were going to see something that night, and we did. And so, it doesn't always work, but a lot of times, you can feel it, that we're going to have an experience. We had another experience in Australia. I won't get into it right now, but I knew we were going to have something happen there. And even the rest of the group that was with us that we met, they were all talking behind my back. They said, Rob's going to experience something. And sure enough, it was me that experienced it. So, does it always happen? No. Can you summon things in? We believe that you can on occasion. And it's really making the connection. We did it in Peru too, where we got the Cusco craft, and I think I have it on my phone right here to show you. I think I've shown you this in the past, have I, Dave?
I believe you have. I believe I have seen that.
And even while Rob's showing that, I'll because that's an excellent example, Dave. I'll quickly add in, we had 2 instances over the 7 years, 2 major experiences. 10 tail end of 2016, we got the opportunity to meet one-on-one Sixto Paz Wells. Now, Sixto Paz Wells isn't commonly known in North America. He's extremely known in the South American, sector. He has had. Our goal is to make contact. So what it does for me and it does for Rob ultimately is you start to research who else has experienced this, who has actually made contact. Not lights in the sky, not UFOs, not that kind of thing, but who has actually claimed to have made contact with a being. So that got us on the phone with Sixto Paz Wells, and in an incredible series of synchronistic events, it put us in the backyard of that man. Why he took that interview was like a miracle unto itself, because he invited us into his home. We got to do an interview with him where he educated us in an extreme way, like an extreme level of education. Like, you need to... He's been doing it for 40 years. He's meditating out in the Chilca Desert. He's meditating 2, 3, 4 hours a day. And he's bringing that information to us. And he's saying, look, there's a lot to be said about consciousness. Whether or not you believe it or know it is up to you. But if you can still your mind and you can, get your heart in the right place, be with the right people and be in the right place, you can, some people, it's referred to as CE5. It's a classification, close encounters of the fifth kind, bilateral, unilateral communication with extraterrestrials. This is how you accomplish it. So we spent time with Sixto. We had too many experiences to describe to you today that we had on the beach of Playa in Peru after meeting Sixto. 24 hours later, experienced 7 things in one night that we can't explain. We documented it, we experienced it, we recorded it, many of them. And then that put us on another path. That put us on the path of meeting Ricardo Gonzalez, who had many experiences in the Chilca Desert and Lima, different places throughout Peru. It excites us because it's a whole part of our journey over the last 7 years, and I'll end it with just this little piece, is the perception of contact and the perception of experiences in South America is completely different than in North America. So when it comes to summoning, isn't the word. Like a lot of people summoning, and people go, summoning, that's kind of creates that other connotations in your mind of summoning, This is a connection. This is a consciousness. This is elevating your frequency and your vibrations, stilling your mind, opening your heart. That's the kind of thing that a lot of people, the Mission Rama group, and a lot of people throughout South America employ. So yeah, we've dabbled in that. We're experimenting with that more, and we've had some pretty incredible experiences through that.
Well, that's the big thing is, when you get into things like this, Mark, and we're going to go to audience questions here momentarily, but when you get into this type of interaction with the phenomena, there are a lot of people who are so scientific that they're just not going to buy that there is some sort of, I'm going to call it extraterrestrial intelligence or extraterrestrial communication with the phenomena that is going on. And I don't understand why it's so far-fetched for a lot of ufologists, Mark.
I agree with you, Dave, 100%. See, I believe in that. I feel that. Like what Rob says, he says it very, very, pointedly. People spend so much time looking up in the sky, they don't look at what's going on around them. Of all the things that we've experienced, they've come in such a way that we're intelligent. We're intelligent. So we sit there and we say, these things that happen around us, we call it cool, high strangeness. That's our term for it. It's cool. It's high strangeness, but it's cool. We can't deny that this is a form of communication. If they want to communicate with us, what's the best way for them to communicate with us at some level? They might play with our technology. They might create a synchronicity. The funniest thing the funniest thing we always talk about was how we went to Australia. Really quick 20-second story. We went to Australia to do Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind, to be with a group on a beach in Australia doing CE5. We rent a car. We bring the car back to the place that we're going to be doing the CE5. And as we're leaving, this is a rental car. And as we were leaving to go out to the beach to do CE5, somebody looks at the license plate and starts to laugh and say, "This is your rental car?" We start laughing. "Yeah. Did you see that the first 3 letters on your license plate is CE5? And so you, and that's not happened just once. That's happened a few times where we looked at the license plate and said, "It's CE5. That's why we're here." That's funny, right? I mean, there's a level of humor attached to that, but there's also a level of what an interesting way to communicate with people. Like, if you want to communicate with us humans, what a better way to communicate, to tell you, to give you a little wink and to tell you you're on the right road, than to give you a visual representation that would be a form of communication. This is our hypotheses. This isn't something that we talk about all the time. But we've talked to people that have talked to us about Men in Black, and we have literally parked our car in front of a car on the same day within the same hour, and the license plate in front of us says MIB. And I filmed this stuff, man. Like, I'm filming this. Like, as a producer, I'm not making this up. This is stuff that happens in the moment. So you sit there and say, that's communication. It's not about summoning, but there's something going on where they're reading, maybe, I don't know, some kind of a link between their consciousness or their, who knows? We don't know.
And you know, people will say, "Oh, it's coincidental." Yeah, there is such thing as a coincidence, but when it happens so frequently and over again and at the exact time that something is happening, I mean, it just... We started out saying it was just coincidence, but when it just became so frequent, it's like it can't be a coincidence. You know, because the whole rest of the year, I never see a CE5 plate, or the whole rest of the year, I never see an MIB plate. Why was it we saw the MIB plate just as we had a guy in our car and we're interviewing about MIB people, Men in Black? So, and that's just one little aspect of things.
We've had that happen 40 times. We have a list.
Let's get to some audience questions here. Let's start off with Marty here, who is asking to both Rob and Mark, is Sedona, Arizona the UFO hotspot many people claim?
Well, I guess I would start off by saying Sedona is very commercial. Okay. We went off the beaten path at Sedona. We went all the way around to Munns Park, Arizona, and then up in the mountain overlooking Sedona, and that's where we had some crazy stuff happen. I mean, I can tell you that, you know, I had taken a whole bunch of pictures of Mark and Elena with the sunset, and Mark turns his data off on the phone so that he cannot receive any text messages because, you know, we use my account for that. And I thought, well, you know what? I'll send him these pictures that I took. And when we get back to our Airbnb, when he's on the Wi-Fi, he'll receive them. Well, I sent the pictures to him. They went for a walk, and immediately it said delivered. Now, this is in the same spot where we had the 2 networks go out and that apparent satellite go over that stopped. This is the next night when I did have all the equipment. I sent him all these pictures, and boom, delivered. And I thought, oh, Mark's not going to be happy when he finds out that his data was turned on because he got these pictures coming into his phone and it says delivered. He gets back to the car and I said, Mark, you're not going to be happy. You're going to be paying for all this data. And he says, I've got my data turned off. Look, see, it's turned off. And I says, well, it says delivered on my phone. And he says, it's not delivered to my phone. And then he tethers to my phone and boom, 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 they all start coming in. Now, how is it on a secure cellular network that the only time you will get a delivered message is when it's actually delivered, but it wasn't delivered? How is that possible? That was in the same spot. So this is in the Sedona area. So yes, there are some things that happen in Sedona we chose not to be exactly in Sedona, but to be overlooking Sedona to experience some of this stuff.
Interesting stuff there, guys. Earlier on, Ange was asking, when you were in Australia, where were you filming?
Oh, gosh. Mark, you want to handle that one?
Oh, so many different locations. I mean, we've been to Australia on 2 occasions. You know, we went in the summer of 2016, and then in March of 2017, end of February. We were in the Gold Coast area. We were in Brisbane. But then we went up to the rainforest area, like farther up. And we also went to Uluru. Rob had quite a prolific experience in Uluru with Lauren Kurth, who is a UFO extraterrestrial experiencer. We spent time with Damien Knott, who is Australia's UFO magnet. So really, in so many, I think we were in 6 or 8 different cities, like across those 2 trips. Tipperary, Dunedoo area, like we had a lot of different things, a lot of ground activity. Again, that was kind of those are the trips that really showed us that there's stuff that can happen all around you.
Excellent. Rob Freeman and Mark McNabb are our guests tonight on Spaced Out Radio. We got about another 3 minutes here before we got to go to break at the bottom of the hour. Kevin is asking, is there a range of frequencies that are active when ETs are near?
Yes, possibly. We've got equipment. I forgot to mention that in the equipment list, but we've got an EMF detector, and I've got it attached to a speaker. And on occasion, that's gone off. Now, as far as the exact frequency, I couldn't tell you. But can I get back to you on that one when I take delivery of all the equipment from Ron Ulch? Because I paid the extra and have got the radios that scan the whole gamut of frequencies. And if there's something that happens, you know, it can be correlated with a light in the sky that it records as well. I'll have to get back to you on that question. I can only tell you right now that yes, when there's things in the area, our EMF can go off. As far as the exact frequency, give me 6 months and using this equipment, and I can maybe tell you which frequencies were active when something happened.
I want to ask you, Rob, as we got a couple minutes to go here, when you are in connection where you know there's going to be something flying over, do you get other activity as well, say paranormal activity, consciousness activity, maybe even if you're in a forest somewhere, cryptid type activity?
Well, you know, we don't look at it as paranormal. We just look at it as it's all part of the phenomena. Because yes, when things happen, we get a number of things happening around us. Like Mark, for example, was interviewing Damien Knott, and we were talking about the kind of things that can happen when craft are in the area. And I think your audio channel went out.
As he was literally talking about audio going out, my audio channel went out.
Yeah.
On my camera, yeah.
Yeah, and you know, we were in the mountains in Hesston, the Hesston Lights phenomenon, and that could be part natural and part ET. You know, we had all our batteries go dead all at once. And they came back on after. You know, I think your camera went wacko, Mark.
Oh, it did. Started getting all foggy and misty and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, and at that time also, my night vision went wonky, which it never goes wonky, but it went wonky right at the same time his went crazy. We were being interviewed by the fellow from LA there at the conference, at Paula's conference in Laughlin, Nevada. And we were talking about the kinds of things that can happen. And he had a full range of camera people there with batteries that were charged for the whole day. All their batteries started going dead right when we were talking about it. Now, you know, some people may say it's paranormal. We figure it's all connected with the ET phenomenon. Because whenever we start going out on expeditions and, you know, looking up in the sky, all of this stuff starts happening. So we don't specifically call it paranormal. We just call it connected with the ET phenomena.
And on that note, gentlemen, I'm going to get you guys to hold on right there because we are going to go to break here at the bottom of the hour. I know there's a bunch of audience questions still to come for you. I have a loaded brain full of questions regarding your treks around the world and what you're looking for. And we need to know, Is it extraterrestrial? What does Rob Freeman and Mark McNabb think about this? We will find out soon enough as our guest tonight, UFO world explorer Rob Freeman, his producer Mark McNabb. These guys are two of the best that Canada has to offer when it comes to filming UFOs. Yes, we still say UFO up here. Who needs that UAP talk? That's just governmental. Spaced Out Radio continues right after this. All right, we are clear, gentlemen.
Fabulous. And I hard to believe that it's an hour and a half already. Oh my God.
God, we're flying, guys. We are flying.
Yeah, this is moving along. It's great though. I love the format, Dave.
We each had a nap earlier on because, here in Toronto and London, Ontario, it's like 1:30 a.m. in the morning, and we've got another hour to go, right? So,
guys, if you knew how cold
we're fresh.
If you knew how cold my studio is right now, I am freezing right now. I am freezing.
Did the thermostat break, or what happened, Dave?
No, what happens is Mrs. SOR decides to light up our wood stove upstairs. So the upstairs gets nice and warm and cozy. Well, the thermostat reads the temperature from the upstairs and says, well, I don't need to go into the basement because it's warm upstairs. So I'm freezing my bagels off here. My feet are frozen, and I might actually get some hot packs to put on my feet, to be blunt.
Gosh, I got to lend you. I got battery-powered socks for these expeditions. I got to lend you those.
Well, I'll tell you, we're going to have a little how you doing conversation about this tomorrow. God.
Yeah, that's the problem when you turn the fireplace on or a wood heater and the thermostat reads the heat and says we don't need heat. Mm-hmm. It's too hot already. And, of course, you need the heat in the basement. You're not getting
it. My God, it's so friggin' cold down here right now. Oh, well. We'll survive. We're Canadian. The blood is warm inside. We'll make it.
Well, I'll raise my hand when I see it turning blue there.
Well, I might because my facial hair is all gone. And, God, I tell you have a big bushy beard, man. You don't know how warm that is during the winter when it gets to minus 30.
Or lower. I think you've had minus 40 up there on occasion.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, last year we hit minus 40, which for our American listeners is minus 40 Fahrenheit. It's crazy cold at that point. Yeah. I was talking to my dad the other day because he lives in the Lower Mainland. They got a skiff of snow, and he's like, "Look, son, it's snowing." I'm like, "Dad, how will you survive? How you'll get through it, Dad. You will rebuild. You will rebuild." And he's laughing. And we were talking about school buses because my little guy takes a school bus. He goes, "What temperature do they?" Or, what's the weather like? Or no, when it snowed a week ago, he's like, did you get enough school or snow? And I'm like, yeah, we got about 3 or 4 inches. He goes, are they shutting down the schools? I said, Dad, they don't shut down the schools here until minus 36 Celsius. Like, they're building Canadians here. It's none of that wuss Lower Mainland stuff.
They are.
Right? I think it's funny. Like, at my son's school, like, you go to the Lower Mainland near Vancouver, by God, if a child wants to bring a toboggan, like if there's a hill there, you can't bring toboggans. You can't do that. Our school supplies toboggans. Crazy carpets. You want to go for a ride down the hill? You go, kid. You go.
Well, and I've been to Vancouver and stayed there over a period of time when they had snow, and the whole city practically shuts down because, their one snowplow can't get to all the roads.
Oh.
And everything turns to ice, and they, can't get everything salted. And I remember even I was going down a hill, and I practically went cruising right through a stop sign. They just don't know how to deal with the snow when it happens in Vancouver, Dave.
Oh, yeah. A couple people asking, why don't you just put a space heater in here? I've got so much studio equipment plugged in here that if I put a space heater in here, I could blow a breaker during the show, and I can't take that chance. So, Hold on. Ted Bastian, welcome to the channel, man. How you doing? And who else? Disciple Will has joined us. Acreon, how you doing, man? And I think we're caught up with people here. Very nice crowd tonight. Very nice crowd. Good-looking crowd. All right, got a couple questions here. Excuse me, lined up. We got about 45 seconds. Big thank you to Ghost Dragon ×2, Double Tim, Todd, Amy, and TMI for the great super chats. Remember, it's a wonderful way to support what we do on this show on a nightly basis. For everybody, thank you so much. We do have, if you look down below on your screen, you will see a store there. We have another one on our website. We're going to be adding new swag to that. We're going to be adding some Team Stump and Team Rock t-shirts next, because let's face it, Devil's Tower is a stump, not a rock. It's a stump. And if you're on Team Stump, go get your Team Stump t-shirt. If you're on Team Rock, well, screw you, but go get a Team Rock t-shirt too. Here we go, everyone. We pass the halfway point of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. How are you? Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you might be on this beautiful planet. Want to remind you that if you missed portions of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read Shirky Poo's Newswire. Check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and now on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. We continue on tonight looking at UFOs around the world. This man got a $50,000 camera checking out the sky above wherever he is. Rob Freeman is with us, and his producer Mark McNabb. Gentlemen, welcome back. We're going to start with a question from Jonathan in the UK, who is asking, ETs, dimensionals, or us from the future, or all of them? What do you think, Rob?
It's probably the latter, all of them. This phenomenon is so big. I mean, you could just zero on one aspect of it and consume all your time with that. The things that we've experienced would lead us to believe it is all of the above. I mean, there's, extraterrestrials, intraterrestrials, some of it could be us from the future. It really is all of the above.
Yeah, it feels like, what Rob and I have had these discussions where it's like, if you were to take something from today and you went back into the past with it, like an iPhone, it would be, 20 years, it would be considered magic. Because that's like the definition of something, it's science we can't explain yet, and we have experienced something that we're trying to wrap our intelligence around, but we have had experiences. And if any of your listeners want to go to the Rob Freeman UFO World Explorer channel, which is on YouTube, there are videos that deal with interdimensional experiences and different things that we've had happen, that they're videos that are created with the proof, so it's like when you talk about ETs, dimensions in the future and different things, Rob's absolutely right. I mean, all of the above, absolutely.
All right, let's go to Brazelhoff here, who is asking, Rob, can you go more in depth on your open your heart, raise your vibration? What specifically does this mean? What are the metrics, if any?
Yeah, I would say, in our day-to-day activity, we're always so busy. We're in our left brain, intellectual, ego-based, logical, intelligent mind. I think, when you want to connect, you've really got to release all that and just get into your right brain, get into that sensing side, and just relax. As far as metrics go, if you do a meditation, there's any number of things you can do. It's your intent. It doesn't have to be a regimented CE5 program. All you've got to do is just go out there with the intent, get yourself relaxed, do any kind of a meditation. I mean, go on YouTube, you can find, 1,000 of them with beautiful music, people speaking, and just get yourself totally relaxed. Just get away from your day-to-day human doing and switch into being a human being. Literally just be. Just, relax yourself. There's so many videos out there that can help you do that. Do any of them or all of them or none of them. Just relax yourself and just be in the moment with what's happening around you. And chances are you're going to experience something. I mean, that's what we did. We don't follow any set formula. We go with what we feel in the moment, when we feel in the moment. And all I can say is just get yourself relaxed. Look, when I was a kid of 12 years old and I just went on the roof of the house, the intention was to actually see something, and we did, my friend and I. We had an open mind, we had an open heart, we believed that we were going to see something, and we did. So any more than that, I don't know how I can describe it. Just, don't get wrapped up in the dogma. Don't feel that you have to do this, you have to do that. Just go up with the intention. Just get yourself relaxed through whatever works for you.
But how come some people can get that communication and others can try that exact same plan and get nothing?
I would say, Dave, I mean, this is just my one thought on it is maybe this is just my own feeling on it, but it's kind of like a little bit like a martial art, like you're exercising your mind, you're exercising your heart, you have to be committed to it, though, at some level. I don't think it's as easy or at least as simplistic as just going out and just doing it for like 10 minutes and saying, well, okay, I stilled my mind for 10 minutes. I opened my heart for 10 minutes. I think that it's kind of like a martial art in the sense that you have to have some sort of emotional discipline, some sort of spiritual discipline. Rob and I, we've had spatterings of meditative experiences over the last 7 years, and you keep trying to further that and kind of take it to the next level. But I think you definitely have to have the intention, like Rob mentioned, and with that intention comes that commitment to it. So, and I think if you believe or know that you have a telepathic, that maybe there's a telepathic link between you and extraterrestrials, they know that you want to experience more. They know that you want to connect with them. That's, if you really believe that and you really want to have that experience, it comes from that further understanding that they know you're committed and they know that you're putting in the time.
That's right. That's the key word, is the time. Like, we'll go out and we'll be out there for 4 and 5 hours at a time. And maybe there's just one experience that happens in the whole evening, and it happens in the 11th hour, in the 59th minute, just before you're ready to wrap up and go. We've had that happen so many times.
So many.
And that's the truth. But is it mental? Is it from the soul?
I think it's from the heart.
It's definitely the heart.
From the heart and the soul, for sure.
Well,
You've got to be sincere. You got to be sincere about doing this. And if you are sincere and you really feel it, it will happen. Maybe not every time, but if you spend the time and go out, on different occasions, you're going to have it happen. I mean, we did, and we still do. We do spend the time and we do the meditations and we have things happen.
I even read a book, Dave, quickly, right in the beginning of all this. It was a book on cosmic consciousness, and it talked about the biggest spike, the single biggest spike in UFO experiences and sightings happened in the early 40s. And a lot of people are like, well, what happened in the early 40s? Well, that was the advent of radar. Okay, so if you look at radar suddenly coming into the technological fold, okay, this doesn't have anything to do with consciousness, but I'll wrap it around. There's this understanding that you have the Earth, right? And then suddenly a technology is created that sends out a ping, from the Earth, because that's radar. Well, that's a signal to other planets that this little ball down here that's called Earth is sending out a signal. Well, I've read a lot of papers where the heart sends out a ping as well. It's a very strong ping that we can send out. Well, if you have one person, 5 people, or 50 people, and they're all emitting, a lot of people might say, well, that sounds really hokey. That's a really emotional kind of, that's light and love, and that's really sweet. But can that happen? Well, I think Rob would agree. Like, the heart can control a lot. The heart can heal. The heart can, if you put yourself in a good place, you can heal things within yourself. You can do so much with that kind of heart energy, for lack of a better word, of being able to heal and to get yourself into. So why wouldn't the heart be the best conductor, to have a contact experience?
Well, exactly, Mark. And that's why, we come at it from the scientific point of view. So that's covered, all the equipment, all the scientists that we meet. And we do go out into the field with the scientists as well, Rich, Erling, all these people. But there is the other side of it. And why would you do one without the other? I don't think you should. So we do spend those nights, and they're not necessarily consecutive, but where we ditch all the equipment. We have the biggest piece of scientific equipment ourselves, our human body and our human mind and consciousness. So why not try to go down that road also? And
Absolutely.
we do. So I think you're going to find that both these things are going to dovetail, and they're going to come to a point. In the end, it's going to be both. There's going to be science. There's going to be also this whole other side with our heart, our mind, and consciousness. Why does it have to be mutually exclusive? It doesn't have to be. We're doing both.
And even Jacques Vallée backs that up in a lot of his different things. The interdimensional hypotheses and all the hypotheses that he's created. He has said that this is transcended time. Even within the paranormal and within all that's happened is there's just a new understanding of how we define things and where our mind can take it, for sure.
What kind of craft have you filmed?
Okay, the most interesting one is the Cusco craft. That one right there, that was Cusco, Peru, about an hour from Cusco, Peru. We filmed a lot of less defined and less sharp things. We had a classic saucer shape with a dome in our thermal scope was that Brisbane or Sydney?
That was in Sydney.
Sydney, at a conference with Damien Knott. We filmed it. We recorded it, but when we played it back, it was all snow. So apparently we weren't allowed to actually get a tape of that or get a video of it. We saw it. We were recording it. When we played it back, it was all snow, and it was the audio, the full audio of the event. But the most sharpest craft we've got is the Cusco craft. When you blow that up, the detail that you can see on that thing, and that's not CGI. That's something that we actually got with our cameras. And I've shown it to Lou Elizondo at a conference, the SCU conference, and he says, Rob, that may not actually be a craft. And I got a little bit disappointed, and he says it may be the energy imprint of the craft. So it's kind of like, when you put your hand into clay and then you take your hand out, you'll see the imprint. He feels that that may be the energy signature in the atmosphere of the amount of energy that was involved when it went between dimensions. This is Lou talking. And he can't say exactly what he feels because he can't violate his NDA, but he was quite interested when I showed him that picture. And, it was taken even just with an iPhone. And it was like a flash. An iPhone at nighttime uses a 1/4 second exposure. So handheld, that should have been blurred. So that shows you how fast that flash was, that it was able to capture the detail that it actually captured. That was in Cusco, Peru. That was above what was it? The Sun Temple,
Yeah,
an ancient
it was a
moon temple.
A moon temple, yeah.
Yeah, a moon temple, which we didn't even know was there. When we were there that year, we arrived in the evening, and where we were set up with equipment, the moon temple from the indigenous people was just around the corner. If we had just gone down the road further, we would have spotted it. So is that why this thing appeared over the moon temple? We don't know. We go back a year later with Ricardo Gonzalez, and he says, do you know what's here? He said, this is a very important indigenous artifact called the Moon Temple. And, this is where we actually captured this Cusco craft just 1 year earlier.
Incredible. What do you think of aliens? Where do you think the aliens come into play with this? Do you think the
we
craft
call them ETs. We call them ETs because a lot of people say alien is kind of like a bit of a, derogatory word, right? Especially when you look at how we use the word alien in, Canada, the United States, as far as people go. But ETs, people have seen them in the flesh on the earth here. People have seen them in a holographic view. People have, seen orbs that are energies that are connected with this as well. I just don't know. I mean, I've had my experience with what may have been an ET being in the outback in Australia, not far from Uluru. I don't know if I mentioned about that on our last radio cast. Do you want me to get into that, Dave?
Yeah, tell us about that. We got time.
So basically, it was just myself and Lauren Kurth. Mark and Liz had been filming B-roll for our documentary during the day, and they were pretty tired. And so they said they were going to just, not go out sky watching that evening. And Lauren and I said that we were going to go out sky watching all night. We were going to stay up all night, and we, took the equipment, all the stuff you see in the picture behind me and more. And we were out in the desert. We were in the outback, and there's like miles and miles of just scrub, bush, and very small little trees. You really call them just overgrown bushes. And the road would go for miles and miles, and we're in the middle of Australia. There's just nothing there. And we pulled off a road that, we wanted to go to an area that couldn't be seen from the highway. And it was a little bit protected. There was this scrub bush, and we found a spot, and we were setting up. And we didn't really see that much. And then about 1 o'clock in the morning, we saw this. We kind of could see the highway a little bit, and we saw a car. I think there was maybe 3 cars the whole evening on this highway. Like it's in the middle of nowhere. And this vehicle slows down, and we were getting a little bit nervous, and he actually came right into where we were. And we thought of all the places that there are that you could pull off the highway. Like where we pulled off the highway wasn't even a road. It's just all hardpack, and we just found an area to pull off. And we thought, how come this car is also deciding to pull off where we are? This doesn't make sense. And the person driving the car came within about 50 feet. And just his car was parked, and his dome light went on and off. And, I was set up with the equipment. Lauren was nervous. She says, I think you better put some of the equipment away in the trunk, like the thermal. It's very expensive. So I did. I broke down some of the equipment, and then curiosity got the better of me. I said, I'm going to go talk to this person. And she said, don't you dare. And I said, well, what if he has a gun? I said, if he has a gun, he can take all my equipment, no problem. And, or what if he has a knife? And I said, well, okay, I'll stay back. But I said, I'm going to go talk to him. I'm not afraid. And she said, well, I'll go with you. And we both went over there, and he got out of the car, and he was very tall, and he was like your classic description of people that say ETs that show up on Earth are. He was Nordic looking. He was tall. He was handsome. He was blonde. And, we started talking, and I said, I'm just curious why you picked this spot to pull off. And he says, I came to Skywatch. And at that point, it just seemed everything he was saying, he was kind of reading our mind, or he was tapping into like why we were there. And it's like he said he had just driven 18 hours from a mine up in North Australia, and he was going home for the weekend. And I thought, who goes home for the weekend and drives 18 hours and he has another 10 hours to drive? Like, nobody. Everything he said didn't make sense. And he wasn't even talking with proper inflective characteristics of his speech. Like, it wasn't monotone, but it wasn't with normal emotional inflections either. Like, it just seemed so strange. And I looked at his clothes and I thought, for a guy who's been working at a mine all day and then coming here, like, his clothes look like they're just freshly pressed and or just purchased. Like, it didn't. None of this made sense. And why is he coming to go skywatch? And he didn't even have any equipment. He didn't have any binoculars. He didn't have anything. Why did he say that? And then Lauren was a little nervous, and he said, "Well, if you'd prefer I go skywatch somewhere else, I could do that." And Lauren blurted out, "That would be great." And then he packed up and left. He just got in his car and left. And I said to Lauren after, I says, there's nothing about this encounter that makes sense. Are you sure this guy isn't an ET? And she started thinking. He says, I shouldn't have sent him away with my fear, because he was reading. We weren't giving vocal signals that we were afraid. He was picking it up, maybe telepathically. But there was a lot more to it than that. Like, the things that he was talking about, like, we were talking about Australia, and I knew more about Australia than he did. I just got the sense that he might be an ET. And we didn't know for sure. But then we stayed out all night and continued sky watching. And in the morning, when it started getting late, we drove back to our resort, which was 30 minutes away. And as we were waiting for this vehicle to pass, he, like, on the road, he passed us, and Lauren says, "Did you see who was driving that vehicle?" And I said, "No." He said, "That was our guy from last night." And I said, "Well, what's he doing? He's supposed to be, another 10 hours, like, he's supposed to be going 10 hours to where his home was. Why is he going back the other way?" Like, he was going back to where we just came from. So I wheeled the car around, Dave. There was no vehicle to be seen. Like, wow. We had something happen there that was strange. Now, we've had things happen like this before, where things have been seen and then they're not seen. And she said he was driving the car. It was him that was driving the car. I immediately turned the car around when this happened. We hightailed it all the way back to where we just were, and we never came across him. Now, first of all the stuff that happened didn't make sense. Then this little thing that happened didn't make sense. And then months later, I was just talking to a fella who'd contacted us, and we were having a conversation over Zoom, three of us, not about ETs, about other things. And he told me he's very psychic, and he just blurted out to me out of nowhere. He didn't even know who I was. Okay. And he said, "Rob, I'm having a psychic flash. Can I tell you what I'm seeing?" And I said, "Sure." He says, "I see you with a woman and a man. You're in Australia, in the middle of Australia, and one of them's an ET." He said, "That's all I'm getting." And I said, "Well, that's very interesting." I said, "We did have an encounter with a person a being who we thought might be an ET, and you're telling me this?" So that was like 3 confirmations. Now, can I say that this person was an ET for sure? Not 100%, but 99.9% that this guy may have been an ET, and that's our experience.
My goodness.
In Uluru.
My goodness. Rob Freeman, Mark McNabb, we have him for another 30 minutes here on Spaced Out Radio tonight. UFO night all night long. And when we come back, we got a few more questions from our audience. But I also want to hit up these two Canadian researchers on why the Canadian government has been so eerily quiet when it comes to UFOs as the story south of the border in the United States blows up that they're looking for aliens, UFOs, extraterrestrials, UAP. Spaced Out Radio's hour number 3 is next, right after this.
We're adding to
All
the
right, guys,
entertainment
we're clear.
online.
I'm just going to take a quick bathroom break. I'll be right back, okay, guys?
Okay, no problem.
Going to do the same.
And I may come back as well. Did we lose Dave?
I think Dave's doing
Been
what we
abducted?
did. Yeah,
He's been abducted?
That's right, Rob. I think this might be the trick to having me stay out longer on sky watches. I guess it's going to nap for 2 hours.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe Dave's upstairs turning the heat up.
I think so.
I hear him coming.
I'm coming. I'm a-coming. There we go. Sorry, guys. All right, we got about 2 minutes. When we get to our next break, I'll just get you guys to hold on for just a few seconds so that way I can say a proper good night to you.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it, Dave.
All right, not a problem. That was a great story, Rob. Holy cow.
Well, it's, and there's more to it than that. I honestly feel, I forgot to mention this, but, sometimes when you're in these experiences, and I've talked to other people, like I've got a friend, John, from Brantford there, Mark, John and Lisa. And they had come home. They live out in the country, and there was this something sitting on their chimney, like almost like a mini craft.
Oh, wow.
And they looked at it and they said, that shouldn't be on there. And they go into the house and put a movie on. Now, he's an avid UFO guy. The next day they wake up and he's like, holy cow. Normally I would have gone up on the roof and checked it out. It's kind of like it dumbs you down.
Oh, dude, I've had that happen. I woke up one night. It was a summer night a couple of years ago, and I woke up and I had two scratches about this long, side by side, about an inch apart, and they look like, how cats scratch with a stutter. Mm-hmm. And so I go to brush my teeth at the sink. The missus says, "What are those scratches on your back?" Right? I'm like, "What scratches?" So I turn and look in the mirror. I look at it and I say, well, that's weird. And then I go for a pee. I go, we go eat breakfast. I'm like, and in the meantime, I'm like, I got to take a picture of that. And 4 hours later, I remember I need to take a picture of that. And I go back to the mirror 4 hours later. The scratches are completely gone. No scarring. No nothing. Gentlemen, hold on 1 second here. We're going to get going. Thank you to all our super chatters tonight and all the veterans checking us out and listening in. You always got a safe place here on Spaced Out Radio. Here we go.
Would you like to connect with us? Head to spacedoutradio.com for all your latest show info. Now, back to Dave Scott and SOR.
Here we go with the third and final hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. We really do appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Thank you to everyone tuning us in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on TalkStream Live, Revolution Radio, and KPNL. All of our archives are free. Go to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam is set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Vehiculation. Vehiculation is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read Shirky Poo's Newswire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram, Spaced Out Radio Show, and now on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. For the final time tonight, we introduce Rob Freeman, UFO World Explorer, Mark McNabb, who is a ufologist and the producer of Rob's incredible UFO videos, which are shot everywhere around the world. These gentlemen, if there's a hot spot, they're going. And they're taking their gear with them. Gentlemen, we got you till the bottom of the hour. Thank you so much for being a part of tonight's show. We really do appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, this is really fun, Dave. Thank you.
Oh, it's been an absolute blast. So thank you guys so much for being here with us. Guys, both of you are from the Metro Toronto area in Ontario. And we see a lot of what's happening in the United States when it comes to UFOs. And the noise this subject is making, not only from the military, but we see government officials in the Senate and the Congress now talking about it. The Vice President has talked about it. Of course, the President has kind of, kiboshed the subject as any president would sitting in power. But we see it being almost a daily topic over especially the last year and a half. Eerily enough, though, up here in Canada, this subject has been absolutely silent, not only in the media on a Canadian front, but on a political side as well. None of the three major parties have gone public with their information that they are conducting, and yet when we see our reporters and our journalists covering this story, they cover it from an American angle and never a Canadian angle, which is kind of odd for journalism. Because if you're covering an American story, usually you look to find a Canadian angle on it. Mark, I want to start with you on this one, if you don't mind. You got 30 years in television and production. I mean, how odd is this that up here in Canada, we're talking about it on a media standpoint from an American point of view, but nobody is asking our politicians, what do we know about Canada and UFOs?
It's a great question, Dave. The one thing I would probably bring up right away is Rob and I have had the opportunity to have one-on-one discussions with the former Minister of Canadian Defence, Paul Hellyer. And Paul Hellyer just, our condolences. He passed last August. I think he was 95 at the time. To have a one-on-one with him was amazing. I mean, he's the Canadian Minister of Defence, and he completely opened up in an interview that we did with him. He talked about all the documentation that came across his desk, all of his understandings about different extraterrestrial races. I think he noted that there were 53 of them that he knew of, like all kinds of different things. So it's definitely known. It's definitely not something that's completely hidden in the Canadian scene. All the documents are being shared. A lot of information is being shared. But it is different in terms of the media representation of it. So much of it, I mentioned this earlier, so much of it is sensationalized, dramatized. We always say cue the dramatic music. And that just, it's a great question, and I wish I had a better answer other than the fact that every country in the world is basically putting their own spin on it. It's not to say that Canada won't come out with more, or maybe take a different, have their own perspective on it. But you're right. I mean, you mentioned this even before we came onto the show, that you wanted to ask this question, and I kept racking my brain with there's just not a lot known. You get that spin from the U.S., you get it from the South American countries, you get it from different places. Why it's not being talked about as much in Canada? I mean, you have those advocates like a Grant Cameron and people that are writing the books and getting on the programs and talking about it, but it's definitely not getting the attention that it deserves.
Rob, how about you?
Yeah, good question, Dave. It's not like Canada doesn't have its own Roswell and things like that. Like, look at Shag Harbor in the East Coast. Look at Falcon Lake, where a craft crashed. We actually went there. What was it? A year ago? This past summer?
A year ago, Mark? Yeah, that's right.
There's many other notable events that have happened in Canada, but for the life of me, I don't know why it's not made more public. It's possible that, we just don't have the budgets in Canada, like for military, like they do in the States. I mean, they're creating new departments every other day in the United States, and not just 3-letter departments, but now that newest one that's like 5 or 6 words long. I can't answer it. I don't know why we keep it secret. I can tell you that it's probably been going on for a long time. Even, that first event that I had happen in 1966 that was written up in the newspaper, the second page of the newspaper was expunged from all the records, all the archives across Canada. Like, my mom read me the newspaper of the account of the very thing that I saw. The next day in the newspaper, she read me, page 1, page 2. But when I go back, 7, 8 years ago to the libraries to get it, page 2 is gone. in all the archives, and the librarian called around to all the archives around Canada. Same thing. So is there a cover-up going on in Canada? You bet there is. And, are we opening the kimono the same way the states are starting to? I don't see it happening here. But do you think that they will when things progress along more in the states? I hope so. I mean, Mark and I will do everything we can from our point of view to help out with getting this all out in the open. But it wouldn't surprise me if a lot of it is based on just the money isn't available in Canada.
Well,
we do feel that. Yeah, we do feel that responsibility. Yeah.
What's your take on it, Dave?
I know Prime Minister Trudeau and Defense Minister Harjit Sajjan have been read in. I know that 100%. I also know that former Ambassador David McNaughton is the one who read them in, and he was detailed this conversation between August and December of 2019 by the man who replaced Lou Elizondo at the Pentagon. I do know that there is talk within the House of Commons walls about this conversation going on. By whom, I can't say. But I have trusted sources within Ottawa who have told me this. I do know that it is being discussed. However, they won't go public with it. And the weird part about it is the media is more disappointing to me on this than the politicians themselves. And here's the reason being. We saw both CTV and CBC earlier this year do long-form interviews of about 15 to 20 minutes long with both Chris Mellon and Luis Elizondo regarding this topic, and either the tape fell on the editing floor or the reporters from Washington's D.C. Bureau were too stupid to ask the questions, what is Canada's involvement with this? They wanted to talk about little green men. This isn't about little green men. And yet the fact that even on the national news, whether it's Jennifer Mather, whether it's whoever else is with other networks talking about, aliens and green men and all of these stigmas that go along with the topic, I think it's unconscionable that this is a major story in the U.S. They're right below us, population-wise. Everything Canada does is in reference to what is happening in the United States. Doesn't matter whether it's food prices, milk prices, gasoline prices, anything. We're that tied at the hip. And defense, we're even more tied. So the fact that there is sheer ignorance coming from government officials on this and the code of silence that is there is unfair to not only the Canadian population, but to the world that wants to learn more about this subject.
Well, I couldn't agree more.
We feel a responsibility, Dave, for sure. I mean, we've our role has morphed a little bit in terms of feeling that there is employing some kind of a journalistic, kind of angle to what we're even doing. We come in unbiased, we come in authentic, we tell the story the way it is, we interview people in a very unbiased way, integrated into our experiences. I mean, I'm not a journalist, but you do feel that responsibility to tell the story and not keep it in some archive that people can't access. It's true.
And I can tell you that, Mark and I have already discussed, we want to write a book. People have asked, what are your experience published anywhere? Well, we've talked about starting a book next summer. Now, neither one of us are writers, but, that doesn't stop you from writing a book. You can hire people that can write for you. They interview you and they distill it down, and then you do help in the editing and going over it. So, the amount of experiences we've had over the last 7 years, they're smattered through our videos, but, there's a lot of people that would like to sit down with a book. Now, perhaps, that book would help also in opening things up north of the border here. I mean, there's not that many books that have been written by Canadians. There's a few. So we'll definitely do what we can to push this whole idea of disclosure and getting things out on the table. Personally, I don't think that disclosure is going to happen in an all-in-one event. I think it's death by a thousand cuts. It's going to be slowly, like they're releasing things little by little, like a tap dripping. And I think that they're going to get the public used to all of this little by little. That will, they're never going to announce that ETs are here, but there'll be all these little articles that keep coming out, and before you know it, everybody's desensitized to the whole subject, and everybody knows. I just can't see it making a big announcement on any one day over this. They're going to keep leaking stuff, and hopefully from north of the border, Mark and I, with all the experiences we have and all the people we're involved with, we can help be part of this.
Well, and even today, the National Post actually released a little bit of an article saying, like, how come we're silent? It was only 3 paragraphs long in a quick, op-ed piece that was written, but, it didn't go into detail. It didn't hit home. One of these national newspapers, whether it's the National Post, the Globe and Mail, the Toronto Star, the Vancouver Sun, wherever it may be, okay, they have to start looking at doing some sort of expose on this. Canada has a deep, rich history in ufology, going back to Wilbur Smith, way back in the day, who was feeding, at that time, the United States government in trying to get his knowledge that he received on this subject. And the fact that they have gone absolutely silent on it, it just baffles me. It completely baffles me.
When you go down to South America, like we interviewed one of the fellows that's in charge of the for the Navy or the Air Force there.
The Air Force, Rob, yeah.
Yeah. We interviewed him at the condo we were staying at, and he spoke for 2 hours telling us everything. Now, this is the small country of Peru. Mark was just astounded the stuff he was telling us, and he even said to him, he stopped him in the interview, and he says, "Sir, why are you telling us all this?" Thinking that these are national secrets that he shouldn't be spilling. And the guy looked at him and says, "Well, why shouldn't I tell you? Why wouldn't I tell you?" It's just the culture. Like in South America, everything's open around this because the indigenous people have been so involved with this for so many years, like millennia. And it seems in North America we're so anal, and maybe Canada's even worse than the States. We really need to open up on this. We absolutely do.
And I'll even say, we did get the chance to spend 12 days with Grant Cameron, who has interviewed all top political figures over the last 40 years. And that started for him with a series of UFO experiences. Charlie Red Star, in the Winnipeg area. And, we do, I'm just going to say this, because it's important to us. During the pandemic, we could only be in Canada, which was amazing for us because, as Rob mentioned, we got to go to Winnipeg. We got to go to where the Falcon Lake, sighting was. We got to interview a guy in a Bob. Remember Rob and Bob's Burger? Who was 12 years old, much like Rob was. When the Falcon Lake incident happened, and he remembers all the press coming in, all the media coming in, all the journalists coming in. Same with Grant. Grant, incredibly, through our time with him, talks about in great detail about all the media outlets throughout Canada being extremely excited in the 70s about all these different things. So we conducted interviews with him. We do have a full-length documentary that'll be coming out in 2022 about our experiences in Canada, and it does talk about the history of UFOs in Canada. It does spend the time with Grant, our time in British Columbia, and talking to, your friend that you had mentioned, Seb Martin, different people that have put time and have written books about the subject, and we'll contribute what we can contribute as well.
Well, it is going to be interesting to see where this goes because, we really do need to open up a little bit more We really do. I don't think there is a choice anymore. This subject is too hot. It is too interesting. The mainstream public needs to start opening up to what is going on. And the only way they can do that is through two ways. The government either has to announce something or the media has to jump on the story. The media, as we know, has never wanted this story. And it baffles me as to why. But the government also needs to start talking about what they know, especially in Canada, where you guys are, where we're located, and where, you know, it even ties to the RCMP and the Royal Canadian Mounted Police. A couple weeks ago, I talked to an RCMP officer who was telling me that they have about a 2-inch book that they have to fill out when there is any sort of anomalous report that comes in to any detachment in Canada. And then the alphabet agencies on both sides of the border start calling. I mean, it's here. It's going on. Why do we keep acting like it's not there, Rob? I mean, is this just the Canadian way? If we don't talk about it, it doesn't exist?
Well, all I know is that, from our point of view, we're continue to get out there. We try to get out there about 6 to 9 times per year on expeditions. And anywhere there's a hot spot, anywhere there's people that are seeing things like a flap, we've got the equipment ready to go. We can be gone the same day or the next morning if there's something that's super hot happening or legitimate or whatever. We're as interested in this as every other ufologist. And we want to document it, and if we can document it and then share it to the rest of Canada, to the rest of North America, to the rest of the world, we will. We're not going to keep anything hidden, never.
Well, and that's the way it should be. We got 3 minutes to go here with you gentlemen tonight. Mark McNabb, Rob Freeman. What a show this has been. Incredible. Incredible radio tonight for you and for our audience. And I want to say a big thank you so much for both of you. Please let us know, if you don't mind, what's up for the remainder of the year and heading into 2022 for you guys.
Well, Mark, you're the guy that actually organized the expeditions.
Yeah, we could say we just came back from Arizona and Nevada and Death Valley. But coming into 2022, of course, barring any travel restrictions, we're really looking forward to Ecuador. We're going to Ecuador at the first part of March. We have exciting access to being with a lot of people in the Ecuador area, going to the jungles and going to the caves and going to a lot of the ancient sites, which are really exciting for us, and to interview different people and experience through that. So that's kind of the first thing. We'd like to go back to Death Valley. We've been talking about that because it really reminded us of Chilka, and it had a quality to it that we really enjoyed. And the biggest thing that we'll even put out to your listeners is Rob and I we coined it a UFO flap with a happening. So we call it a flappening. If there's anywhere in the world that people know of where there are UFO flaps happening, we completely pick up our bags within 24 hours and we get on an airplane and we go to those parts of the world where there are experiences, a number of experiences happening, and we're ready to go.
And also, it's just a long shot at this point. We really would like to get to the Skinwalker Ranch.
Yeah.
So if there's any listeners out there that could hook us up to get us in the doors there, we'd love to do that.
Talk to our art guy, Dirty Filth.
Okay.
Talk to him. That is
absolutely.
He draws cartoons of Brandon Fugel, and Brandon Fugel has them stationed all over his office.
Oh, very cool.
So there's a little bit of an in for you via the Spaced Out Radio doors, my friends.
Thank you for that.
We'll take care of you.
That one.
You know what? I told Brandon Fugel once, I said, what your problem is down there? You're not finding anything because you don't have enough Canadian blood down there. That's what you need.
There you go.
You need some good hardcore Canadian blood down at Skinwalker Ranch to make that woo happen. So we'll make sure it does. Rob Freeman, Mark McNabb, thank you so much for being a part of this show. You guys were amazing. And definitely when you come to British Columbia next, I'm going to get in my car and go wherever you guys are, man, because we definitely got to do this together, and I definitely want to introduce you to Samantha Mowat. So, gentlemen, thank you so much. Hold on right there, because we're going to get ready here. The fedora-wearing John Hudson is coming on into the big show tonight with the Unbiased UFO Report. We got Shirky Poo's news. We got the Thought of the Dave. Lots happening in the final half hour of Spaced Out Radio, coming up right after this. All right, gents, we're clear. Great show.
Whew, that's 2.5 hours. Man, I can't believe we did it. Is that the longest one we've done, Mark?
That's our longest, yes.
Oh, guys.
And we went off script a lot. We just talked. That was amazing. That was so fun.
Guys, that was so much fun.
Well, and Dave, we're really sincere. We want you to come out with us.
I do.
When we,
I do. There's this group. There's this group here. A group of guys. Whether it's you two, and Dan, and Sebastian Martin, and Charles Lamoureux, and whoever else that I just want to hang out with, man. I just want to go.
Well, let's do it, but in the warmer weather.
Oh yeah. Yeah, no, I'm gonna be sitting inside by the fireplace here very, very soon. That's for sure.
That's right. Did you turn the heat up?
No. I actually took my dog outside. See, a little Canadian for our American listeners. If you want to warm up and your house is cold, you go outside, get more cold, so when you come inside, your house is warm.
There you go, a little trick.
I like that.
Mm-hmm. Felipe in Mexico says you should come to I'm going to butcher this. Tepoztlan in Mexico. It is one of the hottest spots in the world.
Can I just say this out loud, Rob? Remember when I told you the place that I was thinking about? That right. I said I've done a lot of research. I have a 4-page document that I was going to share with you this week about that place.
There you go.
So that's our synchronicity for the week.
There you
right
go.
On.
Because that's exactly the place that came up on my. I got a message on my WhatsApp a year ago from a guy who said you should go here, and now this guy just threw his in. So,
guys, I also want to invite you up here to the Caribou. This is incredible. Oh. This is incredible UFO territory up here, and Green Lake area right through to Prince George. It is a complete hot spot all times of the year. All times.
Well, Mark, we got to put something together in the warmer weather. Let's do it.
That's what I'm putting. Putting it down on my list here.
I would suggest the fall, because that way, in case there is forest fires, the smoke is dissipated. So, like around mid-September.
And what's the weather like? Like, do you get a lot of rain? Is it dry?
Very dry.
Is it okay?
Yeah. Very dry.
We could look at like September. Are you thinking?
Yeah, September or spring. Late spring, one of the two. Like June. June, you get the warmer weather. It's still very clear. July is usually the start of forest fire season. So
the smoke's hanging around for a while.
Yeah. But, Rob, you got my cell phone number on your phone. So
I believe I do. Yeah.
So just do me a favor, send that in. Or set that in your phone, and then when you guys want to come this way, let's plan something.
Sounds good. Really great.
Gents,
I love it.
Quick question from Phil here. Is Sarnia a hot spot? He says, I see a lot in the skies there. He's from Sarnia.
Gosh, I haven't lived in Sarnia since I was 16. The only two that I saw in Sarnia was when I was 12 years old, 2 weeks apart. And but I haven't been back, really, to see whether there's anything there these days. I know that, out over Lake Huron, people do see a lot of stuff.
Right.
And I was positioned in Bayfield, which is just, that'd be about an hour north of Sarnia, again on Lake Huron. I did see a few things. I didn't get it captured with the camera. We saw what I thought was a satellite that actually reversed itself, and I did see. We did a meditation. Right after the meditation, I looked up and I thought that star doesn't belong there.
Right.
And when I looked carefully, it had like a fuzz around it, and I was just watching it, and then it just kind of, over a 10-second period, it just kind of closed up and disappeared. Weird. So that was two things overlooking Lake Huron, of which, Sarnia is on Lake Huron as well.
Right. Gentlemen, I got to say goodnight to you. I'm back on in a minute here. I got to get John in here, but we'll stay in touch soon, okay, guys?
Absolutely. It's been a blast.
Thanks,
Dave.
Dave. Thank you so much.
Much love.
Wonderful.
Much love, guys. You take care, okay?
Okay. Thanks, Dave.
Good night. Dave. All right. Mark McNabb, Rob Freeman, two of the good dudes working hard in ufology here. Now we have the fedora-wearing John Hudson, who is hanging on out with us and getting ready to go.
What's up, buddy?
Hey, man. What a great show. I just want to say a quick thank you to Granted Quinnell. Thank you so much, buddy. TMI ×2, Phil, Ghost ×2, Amy, Todd, and Tim for the super chats. Don't forget, you can check out our swag on our show, on our store right below here on the YouTube channel and on our website, spacedoutradio.com. Here we go. Rounded third. We're heading for home tonight on Spaced Out Radio. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. We really do appreciate it. Want to remind you that if you've missed most of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rocking out to Bumblefoot, reading up on Shirky Poo's Newswire. Check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and now on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. It is time once again for the fedora-wearing John Hudson and the Unbiased UFO Report. John Hudson comes on in to talk about all of the news regarding the weird, strange in the skies above. And John, how are you doing, buddy?
I'm doing better than your goatee, dude. What happened?
No.
Was there an incident? Like,
no,
did you like have a?
You know what? I took my clippers tonight, and this true story. I took my clippers, and I wanted, because it was all shaggy, right? And I put on, one of those protection covers that goes on top. Guess what? Those damn things don't work. They don't work. So I ended up, going right down to the skull almost. Absolutely ruined my handlebar mustache. And now I got to regrow it. But the good part about it is I've got it shaped now. So over the next, it'll take me about 2 weeks. It'll fill in nicely, and we'll go. But you know what, John? I'm also.
You sure it's not off by like a little millimeter to the left? It
No.
looks like a little bit off.
You hush
off, no?
there.
Okay.
You hush there. Okay. Okay. I've had enough of the facial beard jokes already. But you know what, John? I figured something out. So before the show, my son and I, we went and we were practicing guitar. My 8-year-old son is officially better than me. He was teaching me tonight.
That's awesome.
He was teaching me, and I'm like, and I forgot a note. And I'm like, dude, what note is that? He's like, Dad, that's a D. He goes, and then he goes, Dad, he's like, don't you remember? It's E, G. I forget the string names. I can never remember. I got so. Yeah, man.
Aside from the fun for you, but forget the fun for you. The way that locks it in to his brain, him teaching it to you, he will never forget that stuff for the rest of his life. I mean, that's going to lock in that stuff so good for him. I mean, that's awesome, dude. What a great experience for both of you.
He officially passed me in playing guitar, and now listening to him rock out, where like he's just nailing power chords, and he's adding now some actual notes to it, and
wow, man, that's awesome.
Yeah. Like today, man, he was sitting there, he's got his shorts on, he's got like no shirt on, like total looking like a rock star, right? He's bouncing around, he's got his shoulders, his guitar on his shoulder strap, he's bouncing around and he's just kind of like nodding away, playing away, and he's looking in power chords, and I'm like, oh dude, little dude, like this is just amazing. Daddy is so proud of you. But yeah. That was my evening tonight.
That's awesome, dude. That's awesome.
And the best part about it is every guitar lesson he goes to now, his teachers, like afterwards, his teachers like he's just smoking the week before. Like he'll pick up all the stuff like what he picked up last week. He'll go into this week's lesson tomorrow, and he'll be like, afterwards the teacher will be like, yeah, the little dude has it. The little dude's getting it big time right now.
Later tonight, I want to tell you a story about this, but we should go on to the news. But that's awesome, Dave.
That.
Really cool to hear that stuff.
I'm sorry, proud papa moment there.
Yeah, no, totally with you, man. No, I loved hearing it. It's all good, man. It's all good.
John, we got a lot of cool stuff going on right now. I
know.
I know you don't have this in your list for tonight. I know you don't.
Well, I couldn't even get through the list that I have, so please.
I want to ask you.
Introduce whatever you wish.
My man, I want to hit you up about something weird that was found on the moon with this Chinese rover exploring the dark side of the moon and seems to find this weird-looking cube-shaped object that is totally out of sorts with what we're seeing on the moon. Man, what did you think about this?
So I'll be honest with you. I haven't had a chance to look into this deeply yet. I saw the photograph. I agree. It looks optically very challenging. Oh man, I know I'm unpopular in this, but like I will just it will take some pretty significant evidence for me to believe that there's something that big on the moon that we don't know about. Because I personally have been involved in this program for the last couple of years called the Frontier Development Program that's run out of NASA and Lockheed in the Bay Area, where they invite students to come in from different parts of the country, and they take all the data that NASA has collected on the moon, and they use it to do summer projects. To do to research mining operations or whatever. There's like 5 projects picked, but the data we have to play with is the moon data, and I mean the moon data. I mean data down to like a quarter inch of every single inch of that moon, including soil content of the whole bloody moon. It's mapped out flawlessly, and it's very publicly available data. And so it baffles me how we can have that data. And then we can still have these seemingly, valid stories that raise some serious questions as to whether there's anything on the moon that we can account for. And so I struggle with it.
I mean, that building, I mean, if you haven't seen the photo yet, it is all over the internet.
It looks huge.
You can go to futurism.com. They've got a giant article on it. This looks like a building. I don't know what distance the photo was taken at from lunar rover U-2.
Yeah,
I don't know, but I mean, this.
Well, and the other problem is there's a lot of garbage on the moon. There's a lot of garbage on the moon, and no one likes to talk about it. But the truth of the matter is it's not unlike Everest. Whenever we reach the edge of where we can get to, we don't worry too much about cleaning up after ourselves.
The thing that bugs me about it, John, is this is probably the only photograph we'll ever get. The Chinese.
Yeah, but the thing is that when that happens, Dave, honestly, when that happens, like I know the inclination is to think it's a conspiracy and something's gotten covered up. But in my experience, when that happens, it's because what they found was when you took that picture from any other angle, it didn't look like that.
True.
It was because it was a unique angle picture that created the image.
I would have liked to have seen them drive that.
Oh, I'd like the coordinates.
Oh yeah.
I'd like the coordinates so I can go there in a moon model and see what's actually there, what we think is there. We can go look and see what we think is there based on the data we have. So I'd love to be able to contrast those two things.
Absolutely.
For sure.
Well, let's move on to another topic because you got a weird one here, and I'll get to the Chinese rover later on in the news. All right, but you got a weird one here regarding the ballad of the TTSA. Oh, my goodness.
Yes.
As we are encroaching on the 4-year anniversary here in about 11 days for the New York Times article.
Yes. So basically, there was a pretty lengthy debate today on Twitter about what was going on with the CRADA. Why did the CRADA happen? What was the meaning of it? What was the angle of it, and so forth? And it looks like we lost Dave, but I'll keep going. And so essentially, I went through and did this analysis, and basically, well, I can't say who. This was confirmed by the highest source I could certainly get my access to, right? And basically, what I came to believe, and what I came to believe in my research, was that essentially the CRADA was all a maneuver to get funding. That year, 2020, they were trying to get into the military funding bill, and so they agreed to do the CRADA because they wanted to be able to then, when they were in the bill and someone's presenting the bill, they can say, and look, TTSA is already engaged with the Army on this CRADA, so of course we should fund that program, right? So it was a way of solidifying their place. The CRADA was their last-ditch effort to do this. When they didn't make it into the bill, when they couldn't raise the money by the movies, this is the whole reason why Justice left. This is the whole reason why Putoff moved into the advisory role. This is the whole reason why this was the catalyst that broke everything. And essentially, I decided to kind of write it up because it was being questioned today, and there was a big debate going on it. And I can say that at least, assuming, as far as someone can trust me, that I have had this confirmed by the one person that could really confirm it.
Well, I mean, when we look at everything that's gone on through the TTSA and over the years, I mean, they started out strong, but now it's just,
Look, I can't tell you how many startups I've been involved in that I've known or that I've worked for personally, where the first thing we went to go do was beautiful, and we tried and we blew it. And the second time we tried to do, it wasn't quite as pretty, and we still blew it. And the third thing we were asked to do, we had to do. We didn't have a choice, and it wasn't pretty, and we weren't proud of it. And it happens. That's just how startups go.
Hal Puthoff has apparently confirmed it, according to Jonathan Davies.
Yes.
Interesting. Very interesting. All right, let's move on to our next topic du jour on the Unbiased UFO Report. AOI MSG, the great acronym for UFOs under the Pentagon. Whoever thought of this one must have been slam dunk drunk when coming up with a name for this.
Yeah, so there really used to be this acronym called PCMCIA in technology, and I don't know what it officially stood for, but what it ended up standing for was People Can't Remember Industry Standard Computer Acronyms. And that's how we all got to know it, because that's what we all thought it really stood for, but that's not what it really stood for. And my only guess, this is my only guess, is that whoever did this named it that to harm it. Flat out. I can think of no other reason. I can think of no other reason to give it that kind of acronym. But what I think is interesting is that there is quite a lot of back and forth still going on about what position this group had and why it came out. And I was quite surprised to see that essentially, through this article that I'll link through, oh, bloody, I didn't even include the link here, so I apologize. I'll include the link to the article, so I can't even name who it is. I have quotes, and I missed the periodical name. I apologize. But essentially, you have even quotes from our very favorite person, Susan Goff. And she says, the department is committed to transparency with the Congress and with the American people while balancing its obligation to protect classified information, spokeswoman Susan Gao said in a written statement. In executing the I just want to say, oh my God message. That's all I can think of every time I see that. AOIMSG mission. Department will keep Congress fully and currently informed, both in classified and unclassified details of activities and findings to enable effective congressional oversight and accountability to the public. The department is eager to work with Congress as it completes its fiscal year 2022 legislation to posture the AOIMSG for success. So here you have her actually standing up for this organization, even though you have in several periodicals people basically, people from the Pentagon defending it, saying, no, we're not trying to circumvent Congress. No, we're not trying to hamstring this program. No, we have tremendous respect for Gillibrand's workup, and we look forward to working with her and just laying down all this BS, and it's just I'm amazed to watch it all going on. It's really fascinating.
All right, this also comes on the heels of the news that it's looking like the Senator Gillibrand notes on and an article to push forward through Congress and the Senate regarding transparency in UFOs has been put in neutral and is stalled as of right now.
Oh no, that's you got me on that one. That's news to me. I had not heard that myself. So I had heard that there were portions of that bill that were on hold, but I did not hear that it was specifically. I did not hear it was specifically this portion that was on hold. Well, so either way, there's risk.
You know what? Here's what I'm thinking on that. If I could give my 3.5 cents, because that equals out to about 1 penny in the U.S. All right. What I would like to suggest is this. I think it's stalled on purpose because this fight between the military-industrial complex and the elected officials, they don't want this to happen. Neither side wants this to happen, and I believe it allows a lot more lobbying to go on behind the scenes and more defense contracts to be spread out, and therefore I really do believe we're seeing the demise of UFO talk in the U.S. government.
Well, okay, I would agree with you up to the very end. In that, but I think you're right in that I think that if you think about it, no Congress wants to pass any legislation that they don't think is going to be respected, right?
True.
And so if they know that there's already this hamstring operation going on, right, they're not going to want to push that forward. So they're going to want to get all of this settled before they move forward with the legislation. So that actually makes some sense. And I agree. I think it throws a lot of chum into the water to make this whole thing a lot more messy.
And to make it go away. Because in the end,
possibly,
the subject will not go away, but the detailed information, the videos, they'll disappear. John, thank you so much for a great unbiased UFO report. We'll talk to you in the After Hours program. Let's get to Shirky Poo's news. All right, let's get to Shirky Poo's news here. Yes, this photo of the moon cube is looking very, very weird as it was taken by the Chinese lunar rover U2-2, released by the country's space agency. The photo shows a distant object that looks like a perfect cube, and China is saying that the rover is heading to check it out. Will we get photographs of it? Who knows? It is worth noting a few caveats about the photo, spotted yesterday by space journalist Andrew Jones, who described the formation as cubic shape. For one thing, the object is just a few pixels in the photo, meaning it could easily be some sort of optical illusion that may be a disappointment up close. China has struggled with lunar science communication in the past. In 2019, U2-2 discovered a gel-like substance on the lunar surface, but upon closer inspection, it turned out to be, well, rocks. It also trumpeted the discovery of a shard on the moon earlier this year, but that turned out to be just another interesting rock. And, yeah, more rocks on the moon than what we know what to do with. Jones, for his part, is managing expectations. He says it's not an obelisk or aliens, but certainly something to check out. So hopefully we get more photographs on it. All right, moving on here. Pulling something out of a person's butt is like opening a box of chocolates. You never really know what you're going to get. Yep. Whatever you find, though, you could usually throw out with the military invention, unless it's artillery. So, here's what happened. The staff at Gloucestershire Royal Hospital were in for a big surprise to their lives when a local man showed up in considerable pain. When asked where he was hurting, he says, "In my ass." Yeah, so what happened? Well, let's tell you. The doctors got into investigating, set up the camera, and never feels any good, and they discovered that there was a foreign object in his hiney. What was it? A 57-millimeter World War II-era anti-tank shell. Now, that just doesn't get up there. You know what I'm saying? Yep. And the guy offered the usual explanation, said that he found the shell when he was having to clear out a bunch of stuff, said he put it on the floor, slipped, and fell on it, and went right up his wahoo, and that's what happened. At least nobody popped a cap in behind with the cannon, and that probably didn't make the man any more comfortable. He will be okay. The shell will be fine. Just a little confused. All right, moving on. How would you like to work for Better.com? Why? You probably wouldn't have a job today. CEO Vishal Garg announced the mortgage company is laying off about 9% of its workforce, and he did it while on a Zoom call webinar. Yeah, he informed on this Zoom call that 900 employees were now fired just before the holidays. He said, if you're on this call, you're part of an unlucky group that is being laid off. Your employment here is terminated effective immediately. Nice guy. He then said employees can expect an email from HR detailing benefits and severance. Having to conduct layoffs is gut-wrenching, especially this time of year, said CFO Kevin Ryan. However, a fortress balance sheet and a reduced and focused workforce sets us up to play offense going into a radically evolving home ownership market. Isn't that nice? What else does Shirky Poo got for us? Animal rescuers in India say they successfully freed a venomous cobra found with its head stuck inside a discarded beer can. Rescuers with the Snake Helpline said they were summoned to a village in Odisha's Puri district after local residents found the 4-foot cobra with its head stuck inside the opening of the can. A video from the scene shows rescuers using scissors gingerly to cut through the can to free the snake. And finally tonight, before we say goodnight, a fiberglass flamingo statue stolen outside of a Florida chef's home has been returned as mysteriously as it disappeared. Chef Cindy Hudson said the flamingo statue was an iconic sight outside her Orantique on the Mile restaurant in Coral Gables, but it was taken, and then somehow, poof, there it is. Maybe it's all just Florida magic. Then again, maybe not. Thank you to everybody checking us out tonight. Thank you to Shirky Poo for the news, John Hudson for the unbiased UFO report, and Rob Freeman and Mark McNabb really breaking down UFOs around the world. Yeah, you know what I'm going. We got Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Thal rocking in the background with Little Brother Is Watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god himself. Special thanks to everybody listening in at home, at work, in your cars, wherever you may be. Thank you to everyone in our chat rooms tonight. YouTube, Twitch, LGAB, Revolution Radio, Spreaker, Facebook, the Space Travelers Club, and on Twitter at hashtag Spaced Out Radio. Remember, this show is copyright by Spaced Out Radio and SOR Media Ventures Limited. Thank you so much for choosing to share your evening with us, because together, my friends, say it with me, we own the night. Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor. We need you to take us home. Yes, the Woo Train has docked for the night. But soon, my friends, we shall ride again. Your seats are always available. Your tickets never expire. And if you want to bring a friend, we've got room for them too. Good night.